Jess, I have less than 1 minute according to my clock.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have 7 o'clock. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would like everyone to please rise as we call our regular meeting today of July 17th to order. We'll begin with a short prayer and then a salute to our flag. Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all of our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. Salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated at this time. I will ask Jessica, a statement of publication, please.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held on the 17th day of July, 2023 has been posted and advertised in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca.
Here.
Conti.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Noha.
Here.
Roberts. Zabrowski.
Here.
At this time, I will ask for the approval of prior minutes of the Mayor and Council. Council President Anoha, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like the following minutes of the Mayor and Council to be approved on. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to make an approval for the prior minutes of the Mayor and Council and motion to be approved on subject to correction if necessary for the following sessions of June 19th, 2023, special and executive session and regular and agenda session.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Anoha.
Yes.
Balca.
Yes.
Conti.
I'm a yes, and I'll abstain from the one I was not at. Wasn't at one of those, I think the agenda says.
Novak.
Yes.
Roberts.
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, at this point in our meeting, we have 2 presentations today. I'm always happy to start off our meetings with presentations, celebrating some contest winners. I'll ask that Council President please serve in my absence right now. So we're going to start with our Shade Tree Art Contest winners. I do see that Art looks like you're seated up front. So, and I know that the rest of your committee is usually with you. So thumbs up there. Perfect. So Mr. Rittenhouse, if you would like to come up. And if the, obviously Council President Anoha, when that time comes also, and the rest of the council as well. Art, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council President Anoha. We had the art contest. Now that we were scheduled to do the presentations in June, but due to the heavy schedule that the council had, the Mayor and Council, they asked us if we could postpone it. Due to that, we don't have too many students here because of vacations and school not being in. But we would like to read off all the names of the students. Before I do that, I'd like to give a thank you. We've had sponsors for the purpose of these contests are to let students know about the environment, let them know about the trees, what we do in Sayreville. And we're moving along with a lot of different programs. And some of the sponsors that helped us were Ashland Chemical, CME, PBA, the ASME Union, Riverton, and Dad's Royal Bakery. So what we do is we have all of the schools involved, both public, private, parochial, are eligible to take part in our programs. So what we'll do tonight is, and I'll thank my other members who are here, we have Joyce and Mike, Joyce Major, Mike Kalachi. Our other members had other obligations, so they wouldn't be here. And we have Heather Paulsky, who coordinated this with the schools along with Joyce. The 2 of them are the ones who put this together. So now we'll read the names of the students. And if anybody's here representing them, please come forward. Janai Negron. Rishi Shah. Darius Burden. Ethan Sanforienzo. And Rishi Shaw again. Rishi Shaw actually had two categories and one in both. Kennedy Magliaro. Dia Shaw. Okay. Rula Ganesh. You're welcome.
There
Here,
we go.
here. Hamisha Patel. Achika Arnu. Eric Ayala Cruz. Ethan Barnwell. Andrew Macario. Ryan Paul. David Montiaco. Juan Asalis. The students did receive their cash prizes. The prizes were given the night of the contest. And we'd like to thank the Senior Center for letting us be there. And a couple of other thank yous, Glenn Skarzinski, our business manager who helps promote and get everything for us. And of course, the mayor and council for you helping promote this. We have a lot of programs coming up with Shade Tree. We have a memorial tree planting for people who want to honor somebody. We'll plant trees on borough property. So we're doing a lot. And I know tonight I'll put in a pitch on your consent agenda. You have an item for the trees on MacArthur Avenue to get us started on that project. So I will urge the council to approve that on the consent agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Art. I appreciate all the work that you do. Thank you to the entire Shade Tree Commission. Heather, I know you put a lot of work out there, and I know that you.
Mayor, one other item I forgot. For the 14th year in a row, we are a Tree City USA community. Yeah.
Go ahead, Art.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And of course, on your behalf, ma'am, and the rest of our council want to thank you, of course, and for those that you have that participated in this to help bring more awareness, to combine the arts and the environmental issues in our borough. So for you to conduct this and for there to be so much success, we want to say thank you. And again, just bringing so much more awareness in the arts and the environmental within our borough. So thank you once again. I'd like to humbly request for any of our council who may be interested to taking a quick picture with you and of course your participants for this glorious award, if possible.
You like having your picture taken? Okay.
There's no frizzy, is it?
Proud parents come up too if they wish.
Here, come up. Come on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations to our artist of the day and to all those others that have won this award as well. Nice big smiles, please. Excellent job. Make sure you wave to everybody at home because you are on TV. Congratulations, young man.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Great job. Now, in addition to being our our photographer of the day, I think I saw Frank sit back down. We now have a presentation from the Historical Society regarding the Old Bridge Hall and the first fire department. Frank, the floor is yours.
Okay, at this time. Okay. I'm going to introduce Heather Pawlowski, who's going to start us off.
Okay, so you don't get Frank just yet, you'll get me. Try not to be too excited. So, thank you. So I just wanted to give a little bit of history on the first Borough Council, first fire department within Sayreville. That's my purpose, and then I'm gonna give it over to the president of the Sayreville Historical Society, Frank. First, I would like to thank Sayreville's mayor and council for having us here today. This building, which holds great significance to our community, has witnessed the growth and development of our borough over the years. Allow me to share with you some of the compelling history that makes this building deserving of such a recognition. Back in 1876, when the Township of Sayreville was established, our governing body faced the challenge of finding suitable venues for meetings. They resorted to conducting their affairs in local hotels, taverns, businesses, and even private homes. As our township grew, it became evident that they needed a dedicated space to serve the needs of our community. However, it wasn't until April of 1909 that the Township Committee, flushed with collected tax arrears, decided to build a proper township hall. Interestingly, upon reviewing records, they discovered that Sayreville residents had already voted to purchase land and construct a municipal building back in 1900. E.A. Fisher, that's the name you should be familiar with, right? A generous member of the community at that time offered a 50 by 100 lot opposite Haig's Bakery for the construction of the Township Hall. To ensure the architectural integrity of the structure, the committee enlisted the services of J.K. Parcell from New Brunswick as the architect. However, the construction faced its share of difficulties, and the work came to a halt in 1910. When the initial mason encountered financial issues, Sayer and Fisher, a local business, stepped in and billed the township $1,182.33 for bricks and supplies. Thankfully, new contractors were selected and the building was able to continue its progress. Over the years, the building served multiple functions. It was the venue for municipal meetings, housed government offices, served as a police station, a jail, and even a firehouse in 1913. Due to the overcrowding in school number 2, the meeting room was temporarily repurposed as a classroom and a fire escape was installed to ensure the safety. I promise it's not that long. I'm almost done. In 1941, the Borough Council decided to construct a new municipal building and the old town hall's role began to transition. On October 21st, 1942, the council convened its meeting in the old building, adjourned, and then moved to the new location, marking the end of the era. And this is where we have our meetings today. At this point in the building's history, Sayreville Engine Company 1 took over as a sole occupant of the building until they moved to MacArthur site in 1971. Despite its change in function, the building continued to serve the community in various ways. It became a meeting place for organizations such as the Civil Air Patrol, further solidifying its importance as a central gathering point for our borough. Today, as we look back on the rich history encapsulated within those walls, we recognize the significance and the impact this building has had on our community. We almost lost this landmark back in the summer of 2019 when there was a possible threat of demolishing the building to make way for more updated structures for borough needs, such as maybe a parking lot. Upon inspection back in March of this year, 2023, the building was found to be structurally sound. This building is a symbol of our borough's growth, progress, and resilience. Preserving it as a historical landmark not only will honor our past, but also provide future generations with a tangible connection to their heritage and ensure that its legacy continues to inspire and educate further generations. We hope to safeguard the stories, memories, and spirit of Sayreville and the roots that created our borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm now going to have Frank come up and he's going to talk a little bit about the recognition from Preservation New Jersey.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this, for tolerating us today. Preservation of Jersey. Can you guys hear me all right? Preservation of Jersey was founded in 1978. A statewide member supported nonprofit historic, or I'm gonna say that again. A statewide member supported nonprofit historic preservation organization. PNJ promotes economic vitality, sustainability, heritage of New Jersey's diverse communities through advocacy and education. PNJ's program, 10 Most Endangered Places in New Jersey, spotlights irreplaceable historic architectural, cultural, archaeological resources that are in imminent danger of being lost forever. The top 10 list is generated from nominations from the public. It aims to attract new perspectives, ideas to sites in desperate need of creative and proactive methods for restoration use for generations to come. The Sayreville Historical Society nominated a structure in Sayreville, affectionately known as the Old Firehouse, about a year and a half ago due to the threat of demolition to become a parking lot around 2019. In May of this year, we were notified that the Old Firehouse was nominated to 10 Most Endangered list, and we were invited to attend the announcement in June at the Gateway Recreational Area, Sandy Hook. We were thrilled and excited to be nominated, and on that day in June, we were selected along with 9 other endangered places. It's duly noted this is just a start to the road of revitalization of this beautiful structure in which several future residents can be proud of. And I'd also like to note Preservation New Jersey seeks more firehouses and first responder buildings to preserve, since many have been demolished in a haphazard manner. Now I'd like to introduce Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane Truzino, a member of the Sayreville Historical Society, and I'm going to ask the council for 2 things. So I'm going to turn my back to you because I want to face the people I'm asking things of. We're going to ask you for 2 things. We'd like first for the council to adopt the appropriate ordinance resolution recognizing the building as an historic site. The Historical Society has been trying to get the state to recognize it as an historical site, and we're hoping that a local recognition will move that process along. And for your reading pleasure, I have copies of an ordinance that South Brunswick passed about a building in their town last month, along with a newspaper article about it. And second, what we would like is the council support in creating a committee that will study opportunities and ideas that will best utilize, preserve the history, and revitalize the old firehouse. We'd like committee members to be at least the Sayreville Historical Society president, bipartisan council representation, representatives of police and fire departments, and members of the public who are not connected to any of those entities. The committee may need to call on borough officials and professionals, as well as Preservation New Jersey, just to help us in this process. And we're hoping that these steps will just be the start in a more thorough preservation program and, preservation planning for our borough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, even again, on behalf of our mayor online and the remainder of our council. I want to thank our Historical Society, even for your display and reminder of the historical significance that the fire department has played in our town for well over a century. and even for your requests. It's a reminder of, the pride that we ought to have, within our fire department and, our public safety at large. So thank you again, even for your presentation and the reminder of the historical significance again. So thank you to our Historical Society.
Thank you, Heather and Frank, once again. And more importantly, it's a reminder of how much and how important it is for us as a borough, as elected officials, to preserve the history of Saraville. And really, that's what we need to do, just for our children, and to really make sure that we remember how wonderful Saraville was, but also look forward to the progress that we still have yet to make. So I appreciate your time and thank you so much for that presentation. At this point, we're going to move forward now with the remainder of our agenda. We have the public hearing on quite a few ordinances. We'll begin with ordinance number 13-23. Jessica?
An ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 437-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the year 2022.
All right, at this point, I'll open to the public for any and all comments regarding this particular ordinance. Seeing none in person or online, I'll entertain a motion. That would be Administration and Finance. Councilman Balca, please.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance be adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski. Public hearing on ordinance number 14-23, an ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 436-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the year 2022. Where'd you go? All right, Christian.
Ordinance only. Please step forward or raise your hand online. Once again, Administration and Finance, Councilman Balca.
We never really opened it to the public.
We didn't open it to the public. We got frozen.
You were frozen.
Oh, I apologize. I'll open, yeah, I will warn you right now, as an Optimum customer right now, I have medium signaling, so I apologize if there's a little bit of weakness on my end, if it does cut out. So once again, I'll open to the public for any and all comments regarding this ordinance and this ordinance only. Seeing none online or none in person, I will entertain a motion. Councilman Balca.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Okay, roll
Balca.
call.
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Ordinance number 15-23, an ordinance supplementing and amending ordinance number 435-19, fixing the salaries of certain borough officials, officers, and employees for the year 2022.
Once again, I'll open to the public for any and all comments regarding this ordinance and this ordinance only. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Once again, Councilman Balca.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski. Ordinance number 16-23, there's an issue. We have to table that one.
I make a motion that we table this to correct the language in the ordinance.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Roberts,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Ordinance number 17-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 8 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Chapter 8 general licensing.
Once again, I'll open to the public for any and all comments on this ordinance only. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion by Councilman Balca, please.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Ordinance number 18-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 2 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Chapter 2-64 fees and licenses.
I'll open to the public for any and all comments regarding this ordinance only.
Christian.
Yep. Over to our councilman for the remainder of, sorry, we'd like to open this portion of the ordinance up to the public for public
Or
hearing.
did I cut out again?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, did I cut out again?
Yep.
Yes.
No, my apologies. I'll open to the public for any and all comments. If there are none, I will entertain a motion.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance to be adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Bond ordinance number 19-23, bond ordinance providing for various road improvements for the borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $6,740,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $6,403,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation.
Once again, I'll open to the public for any and all comments. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move the public hearing be closed, the ordinance adopted on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we'll be moving over to our new business with our clerk to report on our supplemental debt statement.
Just like to report that I received the supplemental debt statement from CFO Denise Biancamano as of July 17, 2023.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Introduction of the following ordinance, ordinance number 20-23, an ordinance adopting proposed modifications to existing waterfront redevelopment plan regarding property located on parcels D through K, including block 333.02, lots 1, 2, and 3, and parcel J pursuant to NJSA section 40A 12A-7E, and supplementing and amending the general ordinances and zoning map of the borough of Saraville.
All right, that goes to planning and zoning. Council President Enoha, please.
No, that's introduction.
Oh, introduction. I'm so sorry.
Yep. You know what, Mayor, I'm even considering if we can table this and see if we can still make other adjustments before, approving the first reading and making it available for public comment. Is that a possibility?
So let's just let the public know. So these parcels, are those located where?
Main Street.
Mayor, this property is located, it's approximately 3 acres. It's located between the Garden State Parkway and Gillette Towers. It's in the redevelopment area. There's a use that's proposed that's not a permitted use, so they're looking to have the redevelopment plan modified to allow that use to take place.
And, ultimately, my take is just a bit of comments that I received from the public. Obviously, we haven't created the platform for them to speak in a public capacity. But ultimately, there's still changes that I like to bring up, with our business administrator and with you regarding how these modifications can be presented. So I wanted to see if we can table it for our next meeting before seeing if the first reading can be produced and advertised.
Well, we can't advertise if it's not introduced.
Yes. Yeah, I'm saying like if we can modify the introduction, is that possible?
Or you could just ask for a roll call vote, make a motion. And if you have votes, if there's not enough votes, then you can.
Okay, well, quite frankly, to our council, I think I was pretty clear. I feel as though it's respectable to have our public, hear on it, no doubt, by our next meeting, but I still believe that it'll be more presentable if we, present this ordinance in a better way. And I believe that, one more meeting will allow us to do so. So I'm requesting if, I motion for this, you would grant more time for it to be tabled till our next meeting for the first introduction of the ordinance.
I do
So
understand.
I'm asking
Council-
for a motion. Yeah.
Well, before we do
Motion to
that,
table.
I do understand the cause for concern here regarding this and a little bit of pause. I understand why you would look to table it at this point.
Mhm.
So this is the parcel that is, like you said, thank you, Jay, for the clarification, across from Robin Hood Drive. It's my understanding, is it through the redevelopment agency? What was the reason for determining this to be an area of need of redevelopment? What was the criteria?
there's a lot of conversations about that even for myself, I'm still clarifying, but then which is part of the reasons why ultimately I'd rather, see how we
For
can.
the, who's currently serving as counsel on the redevelopment agency?
Mary and I, and this was part of the redevelopment location.
This is
Well,
already
what was
part of a
the
redevelopment
criteria?
area.
In order for it to be considered a redevelopment area, it had to meet certain criteria. What was the criteria that property met in order to be determined the redevelopment zone?
Mayor, if I might, this goes back to the original National Ed redevelopment study that was done years ago. This property was included as part of that redevelopment plan. So this is not a recent action taken by the council. This was done in conjunction with Riverton and all that property in the area.
Okay, but that still goes back to my original question, even though it happened a while back, what,
I think, Mayor, as you're aware, there's certain criteria that's got to be met to meet the criteria for redevelopment. It has to do with in-utility, environmental constraints. So there's a number of criteria. I can make that report available to the council. But like I said, that was done years ago.
Ultimately, I know, Jay, you did present, the detail, that's the criteria in the past. And again, just my preference, being that I'm the one to introduce it. I just want to get a general gauge of our council because it's my preference to still.
Just to clarify, you're not putting this property in a redevelopment area. You're taking the existing redevelopment ordinance and amending it to allow a different use on the property.
Right.
okay.
Okay, I'm listening, Mayor.
So that goes back, so what's the additional use now that's being added to this redevelopment, the redevelopment classification? So there's a change being made to what was originally being approved, being allowed to be.
Mayor, there's a new use that is proposed. It's a self-storage facility. That is not a permitted use in the redevelopment plan. So these amendments that are before the council this evening make a self-storage facility a permitted use. It has to do with the lot size. It has to do with parking requirements. So it puts into the redevelopment plan criteria for that type of use that were not there before.
So right now, what this does is it allows for a self-storage facility to be put on that site when previously, for all of these years back, it was never one of the approved usages. Is that correct?
Correct, Mayor. And I think the reason it hasn't been developed all those years is the constraints on the property. And I think the redevelopment agency felt that because this is a very low traffic generating type of use, it would be appropriate for that location. So that's why it's before you this evening.
Right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, this is a general view of the redevelopment agency. And, quite frankly, there's been a lot of challenges with how they communicate and, that plays into a role of some of the amendments in which they're requesting as well. So these are part of the reasons why I believe that.
Can I ask a question?
Meeting.
When we have property that is in a redevelopment area, how do developers or individuals that are looking to bring business into the town, how do they know that we have redevelopment property with specific usages that may be of interest and, almost like an advertising type thing? Because right now, is there a developer that's interested in building a self-storage facility on that site?
Yes, Mayor, there is.
Okay, so from a public perspective, it appears that we're changing a redevelopment ordinance with fixed usages that have been there for many, many years in order to fit the needs of somebody that is interested in developing that property, almost like we're customizing redevelopment zones in order to fit people that come in and say, well, I want to build this. Have we had any, how do we go about enticing developers or other type of usages to come into the town and look at those sites?
Well, Mayor, I can just indicate to you, the permitted uses in that area are office, warehousing and distribution, light industrial manufacturing, park and ride facilities. And I think that there was some concern about the impact of an office or a warehouse if it was to be developed on that property to the adjacent residential properties that are across the street. So this was felt to be a light intensity use, which is, if it's going to be developed, it's better to have that type of use than a more intense use with office or a warehouse.
Right,
But
there's
nobody else has expressed any interest. Now, just because something is a redevelopment zone. It doesn't mean that it has to be redeveloped. One of the biggest complaints from our residents is obviously the amount of development, the amount of building, the amount of deforestation that's been occurring here within our town. So just because something is listed as a redevelopment zone doesn't necessarily mean that it's got to be developed upon. And now here, we definitely know that this would be developed upon because we have interest from a developer that wants to put a self-storage facility, and we wouldn't be entertaining that at all if we weren't changing the redevelopment agreement from, I don't know, however many years back. And Jay, I'm impressed because it's got to be long because you know everything, Jay. So I know this was done a long, long time ago. So our Sarah commissioners, were you in favor of making this change?
So Mayor, I believe that property, you had asked a question earlier, is privately owned. So the sale was made to the developer from the private owner on that one. Jay, is that
I
accurate?
think that there is somebody under contract to purchase that property. And this is not the first use that's been proposed. Over the years, there have been hotels and lots of different facilities proposed for that property that never really went anyplace. This is the only one that I think it was felt was a better use for that site than something that may generate a lot more traffic.
Now-
According to Sarah, right?
Sorry.
According to Sarah, you're saying? Or from your engineering perspective, in terms of better use for the borough?
Well, it's been looked at in the past. There have been conceptual applications submitted, I think, discussed by the planning board, and there have been other uses presented to Sarah over the years. This is the first one that actually got beyond the point of just discussion, and it's been recommended that it be something is considered by the council.
Right. And again, my only reservation is just the recent amendment change, requests. And I just, would like to take a moment to see if those can be amended with those making the request, and then see if we can reintroduce it again in our council.
I have one more question. Is this the same storage facility person that is looking to build a self-storage facility on the Pure site as well?
It is the same Insight Developers, Mayor. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we don't have one self-storage facility yet. It's still, I guess we're waiting for some kind of pilot information. And now they're looking to build a second one. And we already have one at least one I know of near Laurel Park. So I'll go back again to my commissioners on Sarah. Were you in favor of this adjustment in this change?
Yes.
Yes, we're in favor of it because of the less traffic that would be involved. The site is really not, as far as I'm concerned, all of these decisions, about warehousing and everything was made long before I was on Sarah. But this use seems to be more for that site, less traffic involved.
Less of an impact for the residents in the area. We looked at the plans, the layout. There was a lot of easement problems, a lot of wire problems that were going to be addressed. So it seemed like the least impact for that particular property. And I believe it was unanimous.
Well, I think the least impact would be actually building something on there and retaining the green space that's there. That's the really least impact. In the event that
there is a plan to manage all of the green space and buffer zone also. So it would be the least impact to the residents on the other side.
Well, I noticed that in this, it does quite the opposite, Donna. I think you guys, through the redevelopment agency, the recommendation is to eliminate the standard buffers and actually reduce them down to a lesser buffer. Isn't that correct, Jay?
Mayor,
ultimately, I think that I appreciate, some of the dialogue that we're having so far. My bottom line is just that, for there to be a motion, which I'm putting out there, for us to table this. Sorry? But ultimately my motive is that, which is already out there, that, we motion to table this ordinance and its introduction for public hearing in the next meeting. And, I believe, and again, I just want to appreciate the dialogue so far, but I'd like to get, my take on that motion.
I just wanted
No, I mean, amongst our council to I don't want it to be in public hearing for the next meeting. I like to give the developers the opportunity to make further amendments and then see if we can reintroduce it again for another public hearing.
Oops, sorry, Jay. Can I just get the answer though, Jay? Was the recommendation for the buffers reduction?
Mayor, the ordinance currently says where a lot abuts a residential zone or use, a 100-foot buffer shall be provided. This property physically doesn't have that 100-foot available, so it's recommended for this particular use to be 35 feet.
So
And also,
from
Mayor, just to clarify your earlier question, 1999 is the year that the original redevelopment plan was prepared.
Well, I could definitely see why Council President would look to table this at this time, so that way we could have a little bit more discussion prior to the introduction, because we all know what happens is once you move something for introduction and then it goes to a public hearing, that final vote is going to be what carries. So if we really want to digest this and take a look at it, and Council President wants to ask some more questions, we would have to table it now. Otherwise, there's a possibility it could get ramrodded through. So Council President had made a motion to table this ordinance. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Councilpersons Anoha,
Yes.
Falca,
Yes.
Conti,
I'm fine to table it to answer the questions, to move forward. I don't, even though I understand what's going on, whether I have an issue with it or not, if we have issues and concerns, taking more time isn't the enemy. I think it's a valid use of time. So,
But Mr. Conti, being that you understand what's going on, right? Would you say that you don't have any question, hesitations or concerns at
You
all?
just said yes. You voted to table.
No, I was grateful that I wasn't sure if he was aware. So now that I do know, out of curiosity, just a conversation amongst our council, this isn't available for public portion. This is my opportunity just to talk to you.
Motion on the table.
Just want to get your take. As you're giving your answer, I'd love to get your take if possible. That's all.
I think it's worth additional dialogue.
Okay.
Worth additional dialogue. It goes back quite a bit. We're making some changes. I think maybe we get together on it. We take a little bit more time, answer some of those questions, so we move forward in a more suitable manner. So I'm okay with that.
Appreciate that.
Novak,
Yes.
Roberts,
This particular month of the year gives us 4 weeks to talk about it after it's introduced. That's not enough for you.
No.
What exactly?
And the
what-
reasons why?
What specific changes are you proposing?
So ultimately, the changes that have been proposed, I was
What
reached out
changes?
personally. Again, like I said, the changes that have been proposed.
I did not hear any changes you
Yeah,
proposed.
so
What
again-
changes?
Again, like if I have the opportunity to say what I want to say. I believe that there are changes that are being proposed, and to the point where the developers reached out, or those who represent the developers, it wasn't really enough
Name a
time.
change.
So again, like I want to finish my point, and it's just to the whole council here. So I believe that with the changes being, recommended, even personally from the developers, in my opinion, it wasn't enough time, as they reached out within a few hours span. I've heard their reasonings, but I'd like to take more time into it. So that's my general take. And that's the reason why I'd like, for us to push it to our next meeting.
I still
you know.
don't
So-
understand what
so I don't
change
believe
you're
that-
opposing, that you'd like to investigate longer.
Again, being that it seems as though you're not opposing it, so maybe you can strengthen the reasons why, as to why you like the amendments that they're pushing forward.
Which one do you oppose? And we can have a discussion.
Practically every single one that the developers did
Pick
bring up.
one. Pick one.
I'm literally telling you all of them. If you want more details, you can refer to. our
Well, will you
engineer.
open up
We
your
have a
packet
planning
and
board
then
meeting
tell
on
me what
Wednesday
one
as
of
well.
those is?
Again, these are
I'm
things-
happy to
these
have
are
an
things that-
intelligent discussion about this, but if you can't name one, we can't even have
The
a
reason, the
basis
reason,
for a
the
discussion.
the truth is, ma'am, I prefer having these conversations with those that I deem to be intelligent enough to have them with, and I mean that respectfully. all right?
Oh, great.
So I made my point. I'd like to continue. We have a vote here, all right?
Well, who are you gonna, if we're tabling it now, and I
Right,
voted to
so-
table,
yeah.
when are we gonna have this meeting?
The next one,
We're just gonna introduce the next one the same way it is?
I believe that there'll be adjustments to it, to the
Who's
ordinance.
gonna make the adjustments?
Yeah, that's something I'm going to work with the business administrator with to reach out to
Business
the
administrator has
developers.
nothing to do with
One
this.
moment, please.
Okay.
Let me,
I think-
let me say my point. Let me say my point.
Councilman,
The
I.
develop-
Mary,
that-
Mary,
Also,
Mary,
representative developers have
Mary,
reached
you're
out to
looking
me.
for
I
having
believe that they're going to make more amendments before our next meeting. That's my point.
Okay,
You
well,
have
I
the
would like to
opportunity.
schedule an emergency meeting so we can discuss this. When are you available, Councilman Noha, to discuss this?
I'm available during our council meetings. We can meet even before
him
then
answer,
too.
yet you're not letting him answer.
I'm just,
I'm gonna
I'm
call for an
answering your,
emergency
we
council
had a
meeting.
special meeting even before this meeting. I still attended.
You
so-
could have attended the Sarah meeting if you wanted some background on it also.
Right,
It's
and,
open
and
to
you
the
could have,
public.
and you could have given us your information from these Sarah meetings.
We have been
all
giving
this time. You
updates
haven't been,
since
right? So I
been
got this
appointed to
information from the
Sarah.
developer and not through Sarah commissioners, respectfully.
Mayor, this is Sean Keen. Can I make a comment?
Oh, but please, because what I see here is some of the most disturbing forms of government where you have council
Why aren't you
people that
here?
are arguing. Go ahead. Hopefully you'll be able to get
To
your.
come to a meeting.
I think we can cut to the chase. There is a motion pending. We need a roll call vote to be completed. And then certainly not pointing fingers at anybody. If members of the governing body want to meet outside of this room, certainly there wouldn't be a quorum involved, but members of the governing body can meet, whether it's with the administrator or otherwise, and they can talk about the merits of the ordinance. But I think right now there's a motion pending, and I think we have to complete that roll call to get on with the business.
I think it's up to.
I agree. I agree with that. As the attorney, I believe that then we can have any further discussion, but we do have a motion that is in the middle of roll call vote. This to me just seems like an attack at one another, and it really does not look good. Go ahead, Donna. Do you have a vote, or will you be saying yes to the table, no, or abstaining? I don't know.
Before I make my vote, I want to comment that I do appreciate the council members that come here prepared and have done their homework. And for those who want more time, I do not think that we should get in the habit of tabling everything because we have not done our own research and outreach. I'm saying no.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Folks, we're trying to create a record. You can't call out, whoever that was, can't call out from the crowd, please.
Okay, we need to have decorum in the council. I'm sorry, Councilman Zabrowski, what was your vote? I didn't hear it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And that concludes our roll call vote. So at this point, the ordinance then has in fact been tabled for introduction. What I would hope would happen is, Council President Anoha, you're on the planning board, obviously. You come with some valid questions, information, and having discussions. One of the things that we have done in the past when there's been ordinances is committees get together, people that are on specific committees will turn around and discuss. If we need to turn around and have a special meeting, then that's something that needs to be done. But in the interest of this town, we're talking about ripping down and doing a redevelopment project over in an area right by the parkway, right by residential. And this has been something that since 1999 has been a part of the redevelopment zone. I'm listening to the public, and they're not happy right now with the actions of the governing body in reference to redevelopment. Now, the redevelopment agency, they might have other objectives about what to do with redevelopment property, but it doesn't mean that just because something is in a redevelopment zone and just because somebody is interested in building on it, it doesn't mean we have to do it. That's why there's approvals that need to happen. So let's hope there's a very, open, honest, and productive dialogue about this particular piece before it comes here. Are we ready to move on with our next? Also, ladies, for the record, I'm going to rejoin using a different device just because I am having continually some optimum issues with Wi-Fi. All right, so as I rejoin, let's move on with our next ordinance then for introduction.
Ordinance number 21-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 2 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Sayreville to amend Chapter 2-64 fees and licenses.
I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law for public hearing to be held on August 21st prevailing time.
Second.
Novak,
Yes.
Malka,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Anoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski. Ordinance 22-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 17 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Saraville to amend Chapter 17, Section 1.8 permits for special events.
I move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law for a public hearing to be held on August 21st, prevailing time.
Second.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti, Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Bond ordinance number 23-23, bond ordinance providing for various improvements in by and for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $1,680,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $1,596,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation.
Move the ordinance be adopted, approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on August 21st, 2023.
Second.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Bond ordinance number 24-23, bond ordinance providing for the acquisition of vehicles and equipment in by and for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $3,200,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,040,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on August 21st, 2023.
Second.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski. Bond ordinance number 25-23, bond ordinance providing for various park improvements in by and for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $300,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $285,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing part of such appropriation.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on August 21st, 2023.
Second.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Bond ordinance number 26-23, bond ordinance providing for water improvements in by and for the Borough of Saraville, New Jersey, appropriating $3,051,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,051,000 bonds or notes of the borough for financing such appropriation.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on August 21st, 2023.
Second.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Ordinance number 27-23, an ordinance of the Borough of Saraville, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, authorizing and approving a financial agreement between the Borough of Saraville and 1970 New Jersey Route 35 Urban Renewal LLC for a 30-year payment in lieu of taxes program for the property known as Block 425, Lot 202, also known 1970 Route 35, Borough of Saraville, pursuant to the long-term exemption law and JSA 4820-1. It's sec.
I'd like to make a motion to table this ordinance at this time because I'm thinking this property is still tied to a certain political person on the other side who got into some trouble, and there needs to be some more investigation done. And also, I'm not really happy with the numbers that were negotiated yet, so.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
No.
Novak,
Yeah.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts,
Reluctantly, I have heard from the public on this one. I know how they feel. I think they need a little time. I do think there's merit to this, though. But to listen to the public at this point, I will vote no.
Zabrowski.
Yes. By way of notes, quite frankly, I welcome insight if they wish to come in. However, I wish they come in the normal sense, and that is they pay their fair share of taxes as everyone else does. As far as I'm concerned, the opportunity seems rather dubious that we've kind of picked a donut hole piece of property for redevelopment when it's still somewhat active. Again, I think they should pay their fair share, and if they do, I'd welcome into the borough.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us, I believe, to the end of our ordinances. We're now going to move to consent agenda resolutions. I'll open to the public for any comments regarding resolutions only.
Well, there's two that we got to table. John, you
Right. I see. Is there anybody from the public that wishes to speak on the
want
resolution?
205 and, yeah.
So I
We
see.
can't refer it to the, we didn't introduce the ordinance, so we can't refer it to the planning board.
Okay, it appears that we have a gentleman coming forward.
198 and 205, they want to pull. Okay.
All right, we have somebody from the public that wishes to comment on resolution items only. So, sir, please step forward, state your name and address, and you can ask your question.
Hello, my name is Brian Lorenko. I'm actually one of the current owners of Club Pure. I don't know if this is an appropriate time to speak in general about what's going on. If not,
We have to table that resolution.
At this time, we're.
Yeah, but that's about the ordinance more of, that's an.
Oh, no. Let's pause for a moment here. So ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is, and thank you very much for coming forward.
No.
Right now is not the time to speak on that particular topic. I'm going to
You
open
have
to the
pull it
public.
no matter what.
I'm going to open to the public shortly for any comments for the good of the order, and then you can come up and speak. Whether the council wishes to speak on it, we'll have to see, but thank you. Okay, again, this is on consent agenda resolutions only, so it has to be something relating to that long list of resolutions that's on our agenda.
It is. My name is Eileen Pabon. I live at 155 Norton Street in South Amboy. I would like to know what the 2023-198 actually is. It says referring the proposed modifications to the existing waterfront redevelopment plan regarding property located at parcels D and K. And I think we just discussed that, I believe. So what is that resolution and what is it for?
Yeah, so that's not going to be on the agenda tonight because that's part and parcel of the ordinance that was tabled by the governing body, which was ordinance 20-23. So that will not be considered, that resolution.
Are there any other resolutions on the agenda that will now be impacted by the tabling of the two motions before?
Hi, again, Eileen Pabon of 155 Norton Street in South Amboy. 2023-215, I just was questioning why we would be renewing a liquor license for a facility that no longer exists. The building's actually gone, and it is being renewed with certain conditions that are, only applicable if you actually have a building and a business. So why would we be renewing a license under conditions that cannot be met?
So if I may, Mayor, the answer is because it's a pocket license. And what that means is it's not a license that's being used for business presently, but it's still an asset that the owner wants to keep viable and keep it from sunsetting pursuant to the ABC. So they have to apply to renew their license annually to keep the pocket license alive. So it's really a paperwork exercise, but it also gives the police and the town the ability to review the license on an annual basis to decide if they want to approve it.
Thank you for that clarification, as always, Sean. All right, any other comments or questions regarding resolution items only?
We have to make a motion, somebody has to make a motion to table 198 and 205.
Okay,
Yeah,
can I have a motion from council? And we'll do those separately, I suppose. Is that the best order?
Each separately? Okay.
Okay, separately.
To table them both? Yeah, okay. So Councilwoman Novak made a motion to table 198.
Is there a second? Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca. Conti,
Yes.
Onoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski. I need a motion to table 205.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti, Onoha, Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Now we need a motion to close the public and adopt the other.
I make a motion to close the public portion, and adopt the rest of the resolutions on roll call vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
Somebody said second.
Yeah. Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha, Roberts,
Yes.
Zabrowski.
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe we have one resolution to be read in full. Jessica?
Resolution number 2023-220. Be it resolved that the proper borough officials are hereby authorized to award a non-fair and open contract to New Jersey Tree Foundation of Jackson, New Jersey for the installation of 76 trees on MacArthur Avenue in an amount not to exceed $26,001. Open it to the public.
To the public.
At this point, I'll open to the public for any comments regarding this particular resolution. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt and accept this resolution.
I move that the public portion be closed and the resolution be adopted and roll call vote.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Okay, I need a motion to accept the correspondence as listed on the agenda.
Move that the correspondence is listed on the agenda be received and filed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go through our mayor and council reports. We will begin with administration and finance. Councilman Balco, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. New Jersey Motor Vehicles will be at Borough Hall next, in the parking lot next Monday, July 24th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So you can do some of your local DMV business there. We just found out recently that the municipal relief fund aid was doubled for 2023 to $966,575,000. That aid will be helpful in next year's budget and we'll anticipate it then. Interest on investments are coming in much higher than in prior years, and that should be good for next year too. And our certified tax rates were received, and our county tax rate would be like 0.871. Open space is 0.077. School tax is 3.351. Municipal is 1.533. Municipal open space is 0.02. Library is 0.084. So the total tax rate is 5,936. So the average taxpayer looks like they're gonna be paying $8,648.34 this year. Other than that, progress.
Thank you for that report, Councilman Balco. Public safety, Councilwoman Roberts, please.
Thank you, Mayor. 4th of July fireworks was a huge success. Junior Police Academy kicked off today. Graduation for that program will be July 21st, 6 p.m. at the high school. And I don't want to step on Councilwoman Novak, so I'm going to skip that night out. You get to do that. The Pulse program, Community Social Worker Engagement, since its inception, had over 200 borough resident contacts established. And what Pulse stands for is Proactive Union of Law Enforcement and Social Services Experts. We are in the midst of interviews for the police department. We had some today, very accomplished young men. So we're looking forward to what they have in the future. And at police headquarters, the HVAC project is nearly complete, working out some glitches with the vendor and the FATS system. I don't know if I like the name of that. It's Firearms Training Simulator that we had approved. The room is complete and they're excited to provide officers with the state-of-art training. And I'm looking forward to our opportunity to tour that soon. So that's some good news going on. And Councilman Balca, I don't know if you had mentioned this in your report, the Municipal Tax Relief Fund that we had signed a resolution for during our last council. Enough communities and municipalities signed that resolution. So the state aid is coming back to us now, where previously we would get allocated $483,000. This year, we were allocated $966,000. So last year's council's resolution made an impact on that. So I'm proud of that accomplishment. Congratulations. And the chart of our taxes that Councilman Balca had just described, you'll notice that this part is the borough tax part that we get. The rest of it is allocated to other entities. So we are working in this pie slice by ourselves here And I'm sure we're probably going to want to make that available so we know how the taxes are distributed throughout the state, not the state, the county, the library, open space, so you know where your money's going to. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for that report. We're going to move to Public Works. Councilman Conti, please.
Thanks, Mayor. So a couple of things. I attended a number of events over the past few weeks or so. As Donna mentioned, the 4th of July spectacular. The numbers were in. I think they said it was the largest crowd that we've had, which I was delighted to see. It was really great. And a couple of other things that I had been to. There was our friends in the Muslim community had their Eid al-Adha celebration as well. And what I wanted to point out was that behind every successful event is typically our Public Works Department. And I just wanted to thank them they do a lot behind the scenes and they don't get that recognition a lot of times, but they're setting up the stage, they're setting up the equipment, they're getting the parks ready for these events, and they go off, and as well as the police and fire that are there as well to support them. Our guys are there before and after setting up and cleaning up. So I just want everybody to know that we appreciate them, and I want to thank them because those events go off without a hitch, and it wouldn't happen without those guys. So really happy with their output. Delighted to hear some of the updates on Shade Tree that hopefully soon we will start to see some of those trees go up on MacArthur, October. And I know, well, I think that's right. People may say, well, geez, why don't we get them up? We want them to survive when they go up. I know we've had issues with trees going up in Kennedy, and they're not making it. So a little bit later on in fall is probably the right time to do it. And we'll get those trees on MacArthur, which is great. Glenn, I was also delighted to see a number of grant funding coming in. I read that properly, which I think that's all good news, right? Nothing bad about that. Adding a line item for revenue due to grants. I think that's outstanding. So thank you to you and your team for getting so much grant funding. That is great. All good news for the borough. Happy to meet 4 gentlemen today as well, looking to join the force, which is great. 4 on top of another 4 that you all met last meeting. So excited to see that. And just to know people want to serve our town. They want to come in our town and they want to work here, which, you always want to hear that. You want people coming to serve our town. You want them to be here for the right reasons, and homegrown talent and working in the community, looking to give back in the community. I really like to see that. I'm a true supporter of that. So I was delighted to see that in at least the 4 gentlemen that I met with today as well. So, and paving, I know we've got a ton of money that has been approved. I know a lot of it will wind up being in the following year, next year. But I know we are waiting for contractors to start some of the projects. We've got some that have taken place already, and we've got others to come. So we're going to get out. We'll be paving roads according to our list that we had earlier in the year. So we'll be getting some of that done. And I think next year you will see a good amount more because our budget was increased for the following year. So I know everybody wants the road paved. I know we've talked about it a little bit. It may be a little bit delayed and pushed out to 2024, but I think we'll get some of those roads done in addition to what we're doing now, and it's already on the agenda for next year. So I just wanted to thank the roads guys and the Public Works for the information and for their efforts. And that's it. Progress.
Thank you very much, Councilman Conti. We're going to move on to Recreation. Councilman Novak, please.
Okay, just about everybody's mentioned what a great success the Independence Day was. We had one of the largest crowd we have in years. Also, we have a busy summer programs. Burke Park camp registrations are up 21% from last year. Our sports camps are up 34% from last year. They're also opening the vendor registration for Sayreville Day, which is September 24th. August 1st is going to be a combined summer play day and National Night Out. August 1st from 5 to 8 at the park right behind here. Let's see, Saturdays. Oh, I don't understand what I wrote here. I'm sorry. Excuse me. That's right. The movie that was canceled because of the rain this past Saturday has been rescheduled for August 11th. And that's about it for recreation. I'd like to say that in the Sarah report, we had a reorganization meeting the other night. These are the list of the meetings, although it will be posted online. I'll quickly read them. September 28th, 2023. All of these, well, I'll read them all. So October 26th, 2023, November 16th, 2023, December 14th, 2023, January 25th, 2024, February 22nd, 2024, March 28th, 2024, April 25th, 2024, May 23rd, 2024, June 27th, 2024, and April 18th, 2024. This is the schedule. It will be posted unless there's an emergency that those dates will hold for the entire year. Also, we had a report that the Aspire program with the state for financing has finally been approved, and we're looking at September for all of the T's to be crossed and the I's to be dotted. Also, they're currently in they're getting permits for the foundations for Bass Pro Shop. And other than that, progress, Mayor.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. With the reorganization for the redevelopment agency, have those been updated now? Or did you want to tell us who is currently the chair? Was there any change made to the chairs, the vice chair, or any of the
Chairman Mike Diadio, Vice Chairman Ken Scott, Secretary Joe Ambrosia, Assistant Secretary Rosetta Fisher.
Mike wasn't working.
Also, and did you were there any changes to the professionals?
I don't believe we've changed our professional, though the conflict counsel is not appointed. We will do so when necessary.
So the professionals then remain in place. What were they, the attorneys? And so who are your professionals again? I know obviously CME.
You're going to have to go with my shorthand of my notes. Our agency attorney is Hoagland
Longo.
Conflict counsel, again, we did not appoint because we will only appoint if and when necessary. Engineer, planner, CME, agency auditor, Samuel Klein, financial consultant, Phoenix, bond counsel, McMahon, bond writer, Northwest Financial, real estate appraiser. I think we left it with 3 appraisers, and Sockler was one of them because we get more than one appraisal. So we have 3 appraisers.
Okay.
I just don't have their names written down in my notes.
That's pretty good shorthand, Donna. You did. All right, ladies and gentlemen, then we're going to move to water, sewer, and environmental. Councilman Zabrowski.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, I hope everybody fared very well over the weekend when we had those heavy rains. I know that they were disturbing in the manner in which they came down, but they were helpful for our water aquifers as we are in the middle of summer, and obviously use is at its peak. So that was, well, it wasn't really welcome in the volume it was certainly welcome in the fact that we did receive that water. And also I would like to thank all our borough employees as well as volunteers for really a wonderful program for our fireworks on July 2nd. And other than that, progress. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman. We're going to move to planning and zoning. Council President Anoha, please.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I've been very happy to have the privilege of learning more within our planning and zoning meetings, more specifically to the hearings on everything pertaining to the Riverton Village. More specifically, I think Bass Pro Shops hearing we had for some of their plans in our past meeting. I think Councilman Novak or Roberts brought it up. And I want to express my regards and thanks to those that reached out for additional developers that are sending that have sent applications, for hearing previously and oncoming, including, Insight Development and, those who represent them, Perlman, Bob Martin working with Governor Christie and all the developers who have reached out that represent Insight. And I want to express my regards to them and the details and the feedback in which they've given. I'd like to publicly express that they continue to do so. And I'm looking forward to really engaging in the information I received from them with our planning board members in the next 2 days and moving forward as well. So Madam Mayor, I'm grateful for the opportunity and to our residents to continue to serve in that capacity. And we're looking forward to more information and progress.
Thank you very much for that, Council President. With that, I can honestly say thank you to all the council people for their updates. Yes, it's been a busy summer already, and let's continue to move forward with progress. We'll move forward now to our public portion, as I know we have at least 1 or 2 other people that wish to speak. So now is the opportunity for the public to come forward and speak on any and all matters. Sir, please come back up.
Hello, once again, excuse me. My name is Brian Lorenko. I'm one of the 2 owners of Pure Event Center, 1970 Route 35, South Amboy in the borough of Saraville. My first opportunity, I stood before you guys about 10 years ago when we were, I guess some have changed, but I had to stand here, but we were being approved with a liquor license and all that. And we were obviously coming off of a business that was there before us that, generated a lot of problems for the town. So we kind of came in under the gun, understandably, being our feet held to the fire, and we welcome the challenge. And for the past 10 years, I hope we've come close to delivering what we promised upon, to at least trying our best to change what the club was while still operating a business somewhat profitably. So just to give you a little background on us and how I got here, and just to put a little human face on this, it's not all developers. Me and myself and my partner are just 2 regular guys who used to own a bar mitzvah DJ company, who 10 years ago, took a chance and took every penny we had and borrowed every penny we could and said, hey, we're going to try to get our own venue and have a catering hall and do our own bar mitzvahs and really, try to take it to another level, which would be ultimately how I would feed my family and put my kids through college and one day, retire. Wasn't quite as easy or as fun as we thought, but it was going slowly but surely until about 3 years ago, obviously when COVID hit. But in the time before that, we feel that we did everything we could to be a good business in this town. If the schools needed a place for their PTO fundraisers for Women Night Out, we would always gladly donate. When the brain injured children would need breakfast with Santa Vasili, we would gladly donate staff. When the EMS squad needed 8 of our parking spots, because they have none, even though that literally our capacity is tied to parking. So giving out 8 parking spots when I have 200, that could cost me $1,000 in events. I understood the need. I want to be a good neighbor. So we feel we did everything to be a good neighbor to this town and a good business for all those years. When COVID hit, obviously, there is no industry in the world affected like mine. Okay, we're not a takeout restaurant. We couldn't offer 25% capacity. We were closed 100% for the better part of 2 years. Even once they lifted the restrictions and said, you're gonna have 50 people with masks, but no dance floor. Nobody was booking bar mitzvahs under those conditions. And once they started booking, you don't book a bar mitzvah for next week, you book it for 6 months from now. So we were dark for the better part of 2 years. We had no money coming in. We were told, hey, this is unprecedented. You have to take one for the team. We understood. Okay, as much as I didn't sleep for 2 years, I understood. We took one for the team. During that time, we had that, like, what is the team going to do anything for us? We have a $64,000 real estate tax bill. Call the town. Is there any forgiveness for, but we can't operate. You, not the town, the state, but all government saying you can't open, but we want a real estate taxes. Well, how am I supposed to pay that? I can't run the business. We go to debt. The bank, they give us 3 months forbearance. They give us 2 years. They want their money. The insurance company, utility companies. So debt, insurmountable debt begins to build. So that's where we had no intention of selling this building. This was going to be how, again, we retired and sailed off into the sunset. Those dreams are gone. I have since switched industries. I got my real estate license. I power wash. I do what I have to do to feed my family. That being said, I still have this burden of this building that's in my name That's why, and so to the mayor's question of why this, why that, I've been approached by one person to purchase this property. That's Insight. Okay, maybe it's not everyone's dream scenario, but what it is when you're comparing uses, this isn't forest land. This is a paved parking lot. We're not destroying a tree. We're not adding a student to a school. What we are doing is we're getting rid of 200 cars on a Saturday of people who've been drinking alcohol 13 feet away from neighbors' homes, going to their cars, creating noise, garbage, dangerous conditions for pedestrians, customers, police officers, children of this town who are on those streets at that time of night. We say goodbye to that and hello to a use that generates 10 cars a day on a beautiful brand new building. Now, I know the issue here is the pilot. Okay, well, they're not going to pay the full amount of real estate taxes. Perhaps not. This, and again, I invite you, please educate yourself on what I'm saying here. The ground underneath Pure is filled with literally garbage. It cannot support the structure they need to build. They have to put very expensive pillars to support this structure. That's not a cost they anticipated until they did some survey. There is a storm sewer running through my property for which the town has no easement, but it's there. They were asked by the town to design their pillars around that storm sewer and to grant the town the easement. They agreed to both. The first aid squad was worried about their parking. They were asked to pretty much permanently deed them those parking spots, basically give it to them out of their property so they can never have to worry about parking again. They agreed to do that. So it seems like businesses are willing to do for the town, but they say, but listen, we need some help too, right? To do all this is going to cost way more. Interest rates, not the town's fault, were 3.5% when they started looking at this property. They're 6.5%. At some point, it's financially infeasible. So now the question is, what happens at that point? Well, at that point, they go away and the nightclub stays. So just looking at the finances alone, forget about the danger, forget about the nuisance, forget about the neighbors behind us. The town's going to generate, if I stay there over the next 30 years, $1 million in revenue. $1 million. If I sell it to somebody else who keeps it a nightclub or a restaurant, the town's going to receive $1 million. Under this proposal, the town is guaranteed $11 million. It's a $10 million increase. There is no guarantee if they go away that this town sees more than $1 million. That's the only guarantee the town has. So the town has the opportunity to guarantee a 1,000% increase in revenue while getting rid of the biggest nuisance use for a fantastic use on a land that is not a tree on it. It's going to beautify it. Every neighbor in the vicinity, I guarantee, is 1,000% in favor of this. I just do not see what the possible downside is other than, well, they need to pay more. If they go away, you are walking away from everything good. There's almost zero negative to this other than the town saying, well, no, more. So that's for you, right? You're the town. I've never lived in Saraville. I did marry a Saraville bomber. My wife, class in 1992, her mother, her two sisters still live in town. So I have 5 nieces and nephews here, 2 sister-in-laws and a mother-in-law. I am connected. My children are connected. My wife is very much personally connected to Saraville for life. So this is not some guy just looking to cash out and screw the town. This is somebody who has been a good business owner and a good person to this town, in my opinion, asking everyone to just put politics aside, look at this on face value. Don't do it as a favor to me, right? I know you don't owe me a personal favor, but I would ask, the only favor is to look at it with clear eyes and see that it is, in my opinion, a no-brainer, win-win-win with, like everything else, maybe a couple negatives, but the positives so outweigh the negatives. It would be a tragedy to let this go. So I just wanted to put a face to you guys. Thank you for your consideration. I do appreciate you tabling it to talk about it a little more. I'm available at any spot. I know the developer is available. We've met with the neighbors. So please call upon us. And that's all I really wanted to say about it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you for coming up and speaking. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? I do not see any. I can't see my online participants. So Nicole or Jessica, let me know if there's anyone online.
Hi, my name is Eileen Pabon, 155 Norton Street, South Amboy. I do have an issue with the way pilots are distributed within our town. We have a lot of viable land, the land that this gentleman referred to on Highway 35. I don't live far from there at all. And I would doubt that everybody in the neighborhood is gung-ho for a storage facility. That is a very prime piece of real estate. And if it's marketed correctly and we can be putting a strip mall in there to serve the people of the community. Our side of the town really doesn't have many shops. We have a few shops. We don't really have a lot of retail. That is a prime retail location. I do feel bad for the gentleman that owns the business because of COVID. He was, put into default, I guess, financial distress a little bit. However, the taxpayer of Sayreville does not have to hold that bag, okay? We deserve to share our taxes with businesses that come here to succeed. And I notice everybody says succeed, succeed at the end of their statement. To succeed, we all have to share in the tax burden. And the way you guys dole out these pilots is ridiculous. It's if we were looking at a piece of land that was something that nobody really wants to develop it does have to have all this remediation, all this other work to it. Yes, you give a pilot, but you don't give a pilot to a prime piece of land worth millions sitting on Highway 35. That little, and it's not even a redevelopment area, so that's kind of ridiculous to call it that, when it's just one piece of property in a line of many others, okay? Across the street, it was destroyed. The other nightclub, that's been, I think, I don't even know what's going there. I think it might be storage units as well. I mean, if storage units are, for this company to be looking to put 2 different storage locations in Sayreville, that means that they are very profitable. Nobody would be looking to build up this huge storage facility in 2 separate locations if they weren't going to make money. So we should be getting our taxes from these businesses. And you shouldn't be doling them out like they're candies, because they're not. They should be earned and they should be deserved. And in this case, they're not. So please vote against the pilots each and every time. It does not benefit the taxpayer, and it never benefits the taxpayer unless it's an area that needs to be improved upon. And we need to lend a hand. We don't need to lend any hands in any recent pilot distributions. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else from the public wish to speak? Do I see a hand up? I see somebody in the bottom right-hand corner. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square. I have a few things I want to talk about tonight. One is I very much enjoyed the presentation on the town's history. I'd like to talk a little bit about the town's future tonight. I just do want to correct one thing Heather said. Anybody who knows about Swannies knows it was a lot later than the 1800s that borough business was conducted in taverns. I want to tell you very quickly, 1623 was pulled. I don't know the reason. There were some technical issues with that. When I looked at it, I just noted that North Ernston Road runs north and south. So you can't prohibit parking on the north and south end of it. There's the east and or the north and south side, there's the east and west side. So I don't know what the changes have to be made, but maybe that's one you should take a look at. And I think that's in the existing ordinance. I'm not going to talk about Club Pure. I've talked about that before. I've talked about other pilots before. Later on, I'm going to talk about the Trammell Crow pilot, and I don't want to talk necessarily about the self-storage use. I'm not objecting to the use. My objection is that these things go or put in a redevelopment zone. They go before Sarah where corners are cut. If the applicant wants to come in, they can go before the planning board or the zoning board, and they can comply with the ordinances that are on the books. Now, I sent to a number of members of the governing body, I think I sent it to everybody. If I didn't, I apologize. A pamphlet that the state of New Jersey put out on awarding pilots and tax abatements. And one of the questions for officials to ask, according to this book, if a property might be requesting a pilot is, does the scope, purpose, or magnitude of the project meet the municipal redevelopment objective? And the first objective I saw, the redevelopment objective, was to create an area for employment, generating uses to provide for a comprehensive mix of uses in the most appropriate locations. Maybe the Sarah members can answer, if this went before Sarah, how many jobs will the facility next to the Parkway across from Robin Hood Drive create? Maybe Jay knows. I thought the members would know. Was that question asked when, I mean, it had to be asked at Sarah because that is one of the objectives. So when they come and appear, make their presentation, and I know Bob Smith, their attorney, he's an excellent attorney. He's an expert in so many things, including the environment. So I know he made a wonderful presentation. Did the board ask, since that is an objective of the redevelopment zone, how many jobs would be created by this self-storage unit?
Do we know how many jobs are intended to be created? I mean, in the title of the business, it does say self-storage. I can't say that would lead to too many. I know many people complain about self-checkout. So what are we looking at as far as jobs under a self-service storage facility?
Jim, I know on the site of Club Pure, I know you weren't asking about that. I think it was 12 to 14 on that site. If it's comparable, I would think it'd probably be about a dozen, but I don't know.
So 12 to 14 employees, is that what you're saying?
That's what it is proposed at the Club Pure site. I would imagine it's probably similar.
12 to 14 employees? Okay, all right.
Not doing the work, I think 90 or 100, but then after it's assembled. So that's what I saw.
Well, that would go with anything that was built there, maybe more, depending on what was built there. Now, one of my concerns about when things go not through the normal process, you know, we just spent, I don't know, $100,000 on a master plan and zoning ordinances and things like that. And applicants, and it's not the applicant's fault, I don't blame them for taking advantage of the rules. They're playing by the rules that the governing body established, but they circumvent. They go to Sarah where they get to write their own rules. You know, I was always taught, and some of you know I have a little experience in planning and zoning, I was always taught that things are supposed to be comprehensive and in the borough's best interest, not necessarily in the best interest of the applicant. And so my concern here is this particular one, and I appreciate that it was pulled or tabled or not introduced, but it seems these ordinances are tailor-made for this project, rather than the borough saying, this is what we want, and an applicant coming in and saying, well, we meet that criteria, where the minimum lot size was 5 acres. The change will now allow it to be 3.4 acres, and I assume that's because that's the size of the property. Is that right, Jay?
That's correct.
About
A
3.4
similar
acres.
thing happened
Okay.
with Gillette Towers. That had to be amended as well.
Okay. Now, Councilwoman Roberts, you talked about this having the least impact. Well, if we are talking about reducing the buffer from 100 feet to 35 feet to the nearest residential uses, that's not lessening the impact. And this is the same objection I raised when the Club Pure application came before Sarah. I was at that hearing. Now, Sarah doesn't have a planner. So when I asked the question, doesn't have their own independent planner. They have CME acting as their planner. But when I asked the question about what would the buffer be if this had gone through the normal channels, they couldn't answer that question because there wasn't a planner there. But reducing the buffer from 100 feet to 35 feet, I'm not so sure that lessens the impact on adjacent residential uses. The maximum building height. Now, Jay, help me on this. I just looked at this tonight. It'll now be 5 stories that plus a basement. That building can be 5 stories if these changes which were tabled are implemented.
Ms. Robinson, if you're familiar with the topography of the site, it's basically a hole in the ground. So that's going to allow them to go through and develop. They still provide the requirements, setbacks, and everything else by the redevelopment plan.
Okay, so, and I'm not so sure that makes sense. If you're raising the height to 5 stories and you're lessening the buffer, the setback, I'm not so sure that that's in anybody's best interest. And I was, as I said before, I was always told that planning should be comprehensive and land use planning ought to be in the town's best interest. And this is letting a developer dictate the rules to get what he or she wants before they apply for their second pilot. This isn't our elected officials looking out for us and making the rules. Our elected and the appointed officials on the planning board that has a planner making the rules. This is developers telling the town what they want. And until it was pulled, coming very close to getting it. And that's not the way I think it should work. So now let me ask you a question, Councilwoman Anoha, I'm sorry, Anoha. You said something about Bob Martin, who is from Chris Christie's lobbying firm, right?
My understanding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did any other members of the council get a call from Bob Martin or any other lobbyist in Chris Christie's lobbying firm or any other lobbying firm on this project? Any members of the council get a call from anybody from Chris Christie's office? I know that there was a conversation with former Mayor O'Brien, and former Mayor O'Brien suggested that they reach out to some members of the council. Did any other members of the council get a call from? No? No? Okay. All right. I just wanted to, but he did call you.
You know, regarding the developers, I met with many folks and he's one of them included, yeah.
And he was in support of the project or the amendments or the pilot?
He's connected to the representatives, so yeah, yes. To the representatives of the developer, from my understanding.
All right.
Why would Chris Christie be interested in any, wow, that's concerning.
Well, he has a lobbying firm, Mayor. So
Well,
don't
I
think-
understand that. I mean, and listen, I've learned in 10 years the way things run, but that is concerning that we have the council being lobbied now in reference to a redevelopment project.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, council folks
Right, correct.
get lobbied from time to time.
Oh, of course.
Sometimes it's
It's
from a
not
lobbyist,
far-fetched.
sometimes it's from somebody who isn't a registered. I'm just asking, there's nothing wrong with that. It's completely lawful. It just helps to put things in perspective. That's all. Thank you very much. And Councilman, maybe some of the things I suggested you can look at when you're making changes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from the public which to speak? Yes.
Hi, guys. Hi, my name is Charlie Chanowski. I live on 56 Creamer Drive. I'm a resident here in Saraville. My wife is born and raised Saraville, so we are Barmers. I have 6 children, 3 from one marriage and 3 from another. So we're the Brady Bunch. We all live in one house. They range from 26 to 15. I had 5 that graduated from Saraville High School. I still got 1 left in high school. She's 15. She'll be a sophomore. So with that being said, I want to just talk about the Club Pure thing. All right. So I know you guys are talking about the taxes and this and that. First of all, my mother always told me nothing good happened after 12 o'clock. Nothing ever good happened after 12 o'clock. And I preach that to my children as well. Anytime anything bad happened, where I was out after 12 o'clock. The same thing with my children. And I'm sure you guys all feel the same way with your kids. I'm going to be a grandfather, all right? And we're planning to stay in Saraville. Okay, my daughter just got married and we're all planning to stay in Saraville. So we also live in Saraville. What Club Pure is, nobody goes down that way to shop. So, you know, I know that young lady over there was speaking and she says a strip mall. We all know brick and mortar. Nobody's going into brick and mortar stores right now. Nobody. Brick and mortar's out. I'm in the retail business. I'm in the furniture industry. Retail, look how many empty stores there are everywhere. If you go by ShopRite, the whole shopping plaza is empty. You go on Route 9 behind McDonald's, that whole shopping plaza is empty. Empty. People are not doing brick and mortar right now. Would storage facilities be an ideal thing there? Only because I think low traffic, people go there once in a while to get their stuff out. You put it in there, you forget about it. You might go there once a month if you're lucky. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was listening to Mr. Brian Lorenko over there. He was saying, you know, $1 million over 11 million. Again, I'm not about the numbers. I'm about being realistic for Saraville. It's not the prettiest side of Saraville on that way. So I know me personally, as long as I lived here, I never drive down that way to go shopping. There's nothing down that way to go shopping. You know, I might go down to go to Fernando's Steakhouse, but that's about it. But besides that, so with that just being said, like, you know, I'm a Saraville resident, and thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you very much for your comments. I appreciate that. Anybody else from the public? Come on up, Ken.
Thank you, Mayor. Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. I too want to talk about pilots in general. I want you to know I am not against pilots. I think pilots were originally put in effect by the state legislature to respond to the flight from the cities. And this was to talk about development and incentives for people to move in. And I look at pilots as that type of a thing. I think that's what the legislature looked at. I don't look at pilots to be like, well, let me give you an example. Many years ago, we had the Knights of Columbus Youth Bowling League, and I volunteered for quite a few years. Lenny Beck, God rest his soul, ran it. And we had a dinner at the end of the year, and all the kids got a trophy. And when you go down to the shore, to a lot of these game things, every kid gets a prize. And I'm afraid between what goes on at Sarah, which seems to be a mystery so many times and so many people complain about, what's promised to developers when they come in, and then it comes to be authorized by the governing body. I'm afraid we get locked into these things, and it's handed out just like candy. That I'm opposed to a pilot for. We have had a tremendous increase in taxes this year. And I guess everybody now has their bills and got the slap in the face. And we all know it. Don't start telling me about, oh, it wasn't a big increase in the borough, because I don't pay taxes to the borough. I pay at the borough, but I pay it for the borough, for the county, and for the school. And everybody else pays that, and that's what they're looking at. And it was a tremendous increase. And we talk about these averages, too. A lot of people are above average. It paid $1,000 more. And to hand out pilots for this type of thing, for highway development, for what happened over on Minnesink and Cheesequake with this Trammell Crow development, we want to give a pilot to a company that's a multinational company worth a fortune, and we want to give them a pilot? And let's remember, what we're saying here is these people that get a pilot, they're paying 20% less taxes. In general, that's, I guess you can cut different deals, but that's what it makes cut. 20% less taxes than you and me and every citizen of this town. And to give people a 20% discount on taxes who are worth a fortune, you know, it reminds me the legend of Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France, when they were told the peasants don't have any bread, and she supposedly said, well, let them eat cake. And I remember in 1975, when Gerald Ford was president and New York City was needed assistance, they were bankrupt, and Ford apparently denied assistance in New York. And the headline in the New York Daily News said, Ford to New York City, drop dead. I think when you talk about awarding pilots to these people who have got tons of money, when the poor working slob is trying to hold sometimes 2 and 3 jobs to pay these tax increases, I think you're saying to the people of Saraville, if you vote for that, you're saying people of Saraville drop dead. And if they don't have enough, let them eat. Yeah, they don't have enough bread, we'll let them eat cake. That's what you're telling the people of Saraville. It's an ugly, ugly message. I can't support it. I don't think any of you can support it. If you come up with something that for redevelopment, something that we're taking and bringing things to town that are valuable, or might bring other things to town as a result of them moving in. That's a different story. I mean, that's a totally different story, but to pass out pilots to any Tom, Dick, and Harry, especially when most of them are worth millions and millions of dollars, and let them pay 20% less taxes than the Sayreville residents, I think it's something that you should examine your conscience and before you try to vote for something like this. We'll move on to one other quick thing on Sarah. Now, we had several appointments up on Sarah. I believe there were 3 appointments. Can you tell me what the status of those? Have people been reappointed or are there new people, members that have taken them? Anybody come up with that?
There's only 2. And Mayor made one appointment, which the council turned down, and there was no other appointment made, but we were supposed to be changing the ordinance to move it. As a matter of fact, I thought we were going to be introducing it tonight, but I guess it didn't happen. It didn't get prepared to January. So we were going to make no appointments because we were doing this, and we were going to make appointments in January.
So on Sarah, are these people holdovers?
They are
that presently
holdovers.
on Sarah?
They are holdovers.
So, and they're holdovers
Until they're
until a
replaced.
qualified replacement has been named?
Yes, sir.
That's what they are. Okay,
Yes.
because that's what it is. I'm totally familiar with the Housing Authority. That's what it is. And there's a misconception, I think. Some people think because they were supposedly tried to get appointed and they were turned down, that they're out. No, you're not out until a qualified replacement.
Absolutely.
If in fact, the other land use boards, when your appointment's up, you're done.
Right.
There's
Zoning
no holdover.
zoning and planning, there are no holdovers, but with Sarah, there is. And both of the people that were up for reappointment were notified that they are on holdover until such time as they are replaced.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Ken. Anybody else from the public? And once again, I'll ask Nicole or Jess to let me know if anyone online wishes to speak.
You've got a couple queuing up here, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Stricka. I live at 25 Sherwood Road, Portland, New Jersey. I live in Sherwood Forest, right across from that wonderful 5-story storage facility that you guys are talking about tonight. I was actually watching this on Zoom, talked a little bit to Jim Robinson about it on Facebook. Oh my gosh, people, we can continue to have the first view of our wonderful town of Sayreville to be a storage facility. I'm so glad they're doing something with Amboy Cinemas. I'm so glad that's going down because it's horrible to tell people where I live when I'm trying to describe that to people, but a storage facility, 35 feet away. I mean, they did a beautiful job in Gillette. Can't we have something pretty there? Why does it have to be a storage facility? I don't have a basement where I live in Sherwood Forest. I find places for my stuff. How about let's find, like, I'm not saying that people don't have a problem. Obviously they do, but there's a lot of storage facilities in New Jersey. I was one of those few people I think there were a lot of us looking for that gentleman that went missing. And oh my gosh, I remember walking through some of these woods saying to myself, wow, these really are a lot of woods in Sayreville. And then all of a sudden, in 2 months, they're gone. Across from Quick Check, there's nothing left. All we have is this little piece of property. Just like the mayor said, why does something have to go there? Just because it was said something should go there in 1999, we're in 2023 now. Why does anything have to go there? I mean, I literally ran all the way down here. I was painting my bathroom and I was like, I got to go down there because Jim does a lot of talking for everybody, but I think it's about time you hear from a resident that actually would be impacted by this. I mean, my in-laws live across the street from us. They're wonderful. It's really a good deal. Believe me, nobody feel bad for us. They're wonderful people. But ever since Rite Aid went to the back, in the winter, that's all they see is lights. That's all they see. They literally have to have blackout shades in the back. We have Quick Check. We have a nice Dunkin' Donuts. What else do we need over here? A storage facility. I'm going to come to that meeting again when this is talked about again, but please, let's not do this. The other thing I have to say is, this is really the first meeting that I actually watched on Zoom. I was not happy at the way this this group conducted themselves at all. And one of the things I was very upset about was the fact that one gentleman was talking and somebody didn't like this gentleman, and she proceeded to go onto her telephone while he was speaking because she wasn't going to give him the time of day. I was so upset. I wanted to get in my car at that point and run over here because we have to respect everybody here, right? We really do. So anyway, I said my piece, but I'll come back, but please don't put a storage facility there. And 35 feet. Wait, do you know how many accidents are off the Garden State Parkway as it is? I mean, those poor people that live across the street, they have cars that's like almost in their backyards half the time because nobody could even see anything. It's such a blind spot there. I mean, don't put a storage facility there. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you for coming so quickly. I will say that's a very positive thing about having our meetings hybrid because we do get the participation from some that wouldn't normally be here. Sir, you're up.
Hi, my name is Brandon Williams. I live at 5 Golden Square in Sayreville. I've been a resident for the past 11 years. I was actually born in Sayreville. My family has a rich history here. My grandmother and her 8 kids lived here and she raised them here. They all went to Sayreville High School. I was actually raised in Homedale, but just hearing the stories and stuff is what kind of brought me back to this town. Just growing up telling everybody I lived on the same street as Bon Jovi, you know. I'm here to comment on the pilots that everyone's been discussing tonight. It seems like a very emotional issue. And I was waiting all night to hear of an alternative from anyone. I was hoping the owner had alternative buyers. And from what I understand, this building's been, apologies, I'm very nervous, but this building's been for sale for several years now. And if that's correct, there's only been one potential person. It's a little, unsettling. The reason being as well is because I can't lie, before I came back to this town, I used to go out to all those places around there. And I remember what it was. I remember how I behaved and how my peers did it back in the day. And just recently, no one else brought up too, that there was a shooting, and not just, at the club, also, with the councilwoman. And just to tell you outside perspective I'm a 38-year-old man, I'm trying to start a family and I wanted to raise a family here. My peers, they look at our town now because of that area that ghetto now, oh, you have shootings like that. Never, even when we went out to the clubs, I was never scared to be around there. And just to hear that there's 2 in that area just in the past, 6 months to a year and not that, and there's no viable other option. I understand that, listen, I would love for the developer, whoever they are, to play their fair share, but my father also taught me when you have a sure thing, go with it, And it's just I really don't understand why as well that these other pilots are being approved more in town, by my house where people live. You drive down 35, it's desolate. I get it. I would love for them to pay more than their fair share if we could. Like you said, they have millions of dollars, but the revenue that it sounds like it's going to bring to the town, it sounds better than just the $1 million. And to be honest with you, it's just kind of me. The reason I came here and stood up about it is just because when I've heard from outside people, to hear a girl I was dating didn't want to come to my town because of a shooting on 35, that was nothing I would ever imagine when I was a kid. I wish it was a perfect world where we could hold these corporations accountable and get their fair share. But as I'm sure people know too, if we don't help out, they're going to go somewhere else. And I wish that the town had we have perspectives or a plan to bring in businesses to revitalize 35. I feel like I'm getting closed in my house. I don't even know what the new construction is across from Quick Check on the corner. I just drove down the other day. The whole half the forest is taken down. I see mining trucks coming out of there all the time. I know I have to leave work early or it's going to take me 30 minutes to get to my house. And I just live 2 blocks down from Quick Check. So it's becoming clustered there. And it's just weird to me how we can't, that whole 35, it's empty. It's always empty. And I understand people are jobs. To me, it sounds like there's more jobs in this facility if they can really do 12 to 14 people than a strip mall. I don't know about you guys. Anytime I walk into Quick Check, there's 1-2 people working there. There's vape shops everywhere. There's pizza places everywhere. I don't have a problem finding convenience stores or anything like that. Liquor stores everywhere. There's another one that just opened up by my house. I wish it would have stayed a restaurant, but just hope you guys can take that to an effect as well, that it's not just the money. And my generation is the future of this town, and I think we want to attract more people to bring families here. And I'm telling you, it's not a good look for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anyone else from the public? One more?
Hi, Allison Hornbeck, 7 Driftwood Drive. Here tonight to talk about pilots, topic of the night. Pilots originally began so that they could help cities whose manufacturers were leaving and taking jobs and eroding the city's tax base. This description does not fit Sayreville. In Sayreville, the current pilot recommendations are outside the Fox Lands Act, whose original goal was to eliminate urban blight and restore a solvent tax base to New Jersey deteriorating cities. That is not Sayreville. When Sayreville, Sarah, or planning boards or the borough council greedily enter into a pilot, it's akin to an addict looking for a quick fix. It solves an immediate need for an insert of cash, but it's very short-sighted and leaves the town wanting another fix. The long-term tax abatement that these current businesses are asking for will hurt the school system and ultimately the town and its taxpayers. Long-term, it's only going to benefit the developers. The Borough Council has a duty and foresight and vision to plan responsibly for the future. These pilots are unfair to the children who will inherit these bad decisions, tax shortfalls, and all the future blight these projects are creating. What Sayreville needs right now is some fiscal responsibility for the taxpayers and a lot of integrity from its borough council and mayor, especially given the recent suits that are going. And I think given the recent lawsuits that are against, I think anything Sarah-based for the past 20 years needs to be put on hold. It really is sad. And, you know, the past couple of people that have talked about it, it's very sad that people are feeling this way about Sayreville. And I grew up here and I want it back. I want integrity. I want us to feel like, you know, we're worth it. You know, if you lay down and let people roll over you, they're only going to treat you the way you let that. Don't. We're better than that. Let's raise ourselves up. Let's have some integrity. Come on, guys, we can do this. I mean, we are so short selling this town and every time we do this. So, you know, only a handful of people maybe came and spoke. Trust me, there's a lot of people out there watching and commenting. Maybe they don't come here, maybe they're online, but trust me, they're out there and they're talking and they know how everybody is voting. And, you know, let's see what happens with the election. But, you know, you guys owe it to the taxpayers to really think about these pilots that have been given, you know, so freely, and anything recommended by Sarah the past 20 years, just please put on hold. So I have that. And then I also want to ask about any, do we have anything about that RFP for the Sarah board and is anybody coming forward for the Tom Palando to look at the committees? Didn't you put out something? That ever
We
happened?
didn't re-advertise yet because our Star Ledger account was on hold.
That is true, Jess. We did put out a second RFP. Where are we in reference to those?
I'm waiting.
I'm sorry,
for us to be-
Jess, could you repeat that for me?
Star Ledger had our account on hold, so I'm just waiting to make sure the payment went through.
Okay.
So it hasn't even gone out for RFP.
Correct.
I mean, we have one person that put in for that from the first. Who knows? I mean, I don't know how much longer we can continue to just move forward like business as usual when we know exactly what was going on. And, you know, that individual was in the news again. You know, I think for the first time in a while, we saw updates. I agree with you 100%. We can do better.
I'm fearful that you're just waiting, you know, the council's waiting for it to just go away. It's not going to go away because I'm going to keep coming here and I'm going to keep asking. And it's not only for, you know, everything Tom Palando. What about the other councilman that quit? And that it was never looked at. I mean, he ran what, Sayreville AA and all that. I mean, how was that never looked into? How was that never looked into? Ricky Melendez. How was that never looked into? Well, then whatever boards he was on when he was, I mean, The fact that it was never looked into is really sad. Or wreck or anything where any kind of money changed hands, just because of the charges. I mean, I would think that would be concerning. I would think that you guys want to, it all goes back to integrity. We need to have integrity, and you can't just ignore it and pretend it's going to go away, because it doesn't. You have to rise above, and sometimes you might have to apologize and say, you know what, we made a bad decision and we didn't do it, but now moving forward, we're going to do the right thing. So please just do the right thing for the town people, because trust me, people are talking and they want it. You know, we don't want to feel like this town is nothing, because it's not. There's 40,000 people that live here. It can be so much better than it is. But it takes you guys. Please just hear us. Let's just do right.
Thank you so much. Let's hope that your comments don't fall on deaf ears. All right, ladies and gentlemen, anybody else from the public wish to speak? Just let me know. If we see none, we can entertain a motion to close the public portion. Nicole, anybody online?
No.
I make a motion to close the public portion.
Is there a second?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Motion
opposed?
to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ladies and gentlemen, does anybody need a quick break, or do we want to go right into the agenda? All right, one quick break. Take a few minutes. Let's reconvene in about 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, it looks like we're all back together. Are we ready to reconvene our next and begin our next meeting? At this time, I'll once again ask for everybody to please stand with a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance. Oh, I'll wait just a second. I'm sorry, Vince. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry if I was a little slow on that. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a statement of publication again, please, Jessica.
Take notice that this agenda meeting of the mayor and council being held this 17th day of July, 2023 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca, Conti,
Here.
Novak, Anoha, Roberts, Zabrowski. Okay, under general discussion, authorization to declare. the
Okay, I'll
lapse
turn it
of-
over to you, Jess, for our general discussion.
Yeah, authorization to declare the lapse of the following plenary retail consumption licenses and hereby deemed to have been abandoned, and same is declared to have ceased to exist upon the licensee's failure to renew the licenses by the statutory deadline for Peter Pan Diner and Snookers. Resolutions on for the next meeting.
So I do want to ask a question. They were deemed to be abandoned. Do they just go away from our community, or can that's what I understood. The state statute says these can never be renewed. No one can purchase them. Doesn't Governor Murphy have something going on where he's amending that? Has that come through yet?
Well, they are, even though these licenses are on the, in the crosshairs, the owners, I don't know much about these, but they can apply to the ABC even after they miss their statutory deadline. They can apply to get relief. I have no idea about these two.
They didn't apply. It's been years.
Been years.
So they haven't paid the ABC or the borough.
And it just seems a shame to go away, because there's so many people who would love to start a business, that would love to do that.
I mean, a lot of them have to, I know Peter Pan Diner has trouble getting tax clearance. Snookers, no, they did get tax clearance, but they haven't paid. And I've
Just
been,
keep in mind, there are a number of pocketed licenses that are still available
Yeah.
in town as well.
That
So
frustrates me
obviously
also.
There's a
Yeah.
number of inventory.
In my opinion, I think they're all waiting for Riverton.
I believe you're right. And I think that they're
So-
going to be, I think they're going to be disappointed because if the governor does implement that new plan to open up more liquor licenses, it's going to diminish the value of those pocket licenses.
Yeah. I mean, we're at our max of the amount of liquor licenses that we can receive from the state.
But unfortunately, this is a state managed, state rules, state laws. We can't do anything but allow them to,
We can talk to our legislators.
we'll talk to our legislators, but these have to now be abandoned. Is there a reason we need to abandon those at this time?
Files up. I mean, I keep holding out. I have years of renewals for them. Some of them go back to 2017 that haven't been renewed.
Sean, what are our options with this? To hold it over at all, or is there any options?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jess is saying they're not up to date with their taxes, so they don't qualify for a license until they pay their taxes. That's one thing. And then as John was saying, there's other licenses in town that are
10,
pocket licenses. 10?
10 pocketed
Yeah,
licenses.
and there's a lot of people who would love to start a business. Is there any way we could do maybe a tax sale to have someone have the opportunity to take a license?
Because the town doesn't own them. The town can own them. The town doesn't own these. These are privately held. But getting back to Governor Murphy, he did, this is just FYI, this is not anything. He was proposing stuff. The legislature wasn't going for it. And I think pretty much because of what you were saying, if you own a license, now they devalue it. And that was the pushback why that didn't go. But I know the governor is interested in doing some changes, so that could be something that's good for towns like this.
All right, well, I figured I had to ask the questions. Thank you.
I don't understand why they didn't at least try to sell it or something.
Exactly. There are
Because
people.
also in
that
order
wanna
to
know.
transfer the license, they need tax clearance.
Gotcha. All right. I see. So they couldn't do anything with it. They
That's
just
why
chose
shops-
not to pay for it.
Once they go a term without renewing or paying the fees, the state already sees it as dead. So this is just to really finalize.
This is just putting the nails in the coffin.
Yeah.
They're already in a coffin.
Okay, moving on then. We have public safety. Continue for me, Jess.
Coin toss request for the corner of Washington and Ernst Road received from the Head Over Heels USAG Team Club for October 14th and 15, 2023. Authorization to advertise for bids for tire truck preventative maintenance and repairs. Memorializing an emergency contract issued to Draeger Safety Products for the replacement of one Alcotest machine in an amount not to exceed $19,305. Request received from residents of Ridge Avenue from Milliken Road to 22 Ridge Avenue to hold a block party on July 30th, 2023 from 1 PM to 9 PM. Authorization to award a non-fair and open contract for leaf bags to Papco Industries in an amount not to exceed $20,923.20. Authorization to establish the following recreation program and fee: women's self-defense, $70. Authorization to purchase one 2024 Starcraft All-Star Shuttle Bus from Creative Bus Sales through HGAC by Cooperative Purchasing Contract in an amount not to exceed $136,025. Authorization to award a non-fair and open contract for a guardrail to American Timber and Steel in an amount not to exceed $23,168.40.
Thank you very much, Jess. We're going to move now to our business administrator's report. Mr. Skarzinski, the floor is yours. Oh, microphone though for me, please. I'm sorry.
Looking for authorization to allow PSE&G to move forward with their next phase of their gas modernization program. That location will be in the Morgan section. We've met with them several times, myself and Mr. Cornell, and we're satisfied that it'll meet the requirements as previously set for previous restoration programs in terms of restoration of the roadways, et cetera. And we're coordinating with water and sewer to make sure that our utility needs are addressed before the roads are restored back to their original location. Authorization.
Real quick, though, just on that restoration, do we have an idea of the paving process here?
If I might, Madam Mayor, this would be similar to what you did with the last phase that was done. Instead of paving the entire roadway, they would pave half of the road, or the borough can go through and take that half width and use it to get a road fully paved. So you basically control how the roads are restored. If a road is in poor condition, you don't want to pave just half the road, you want to reconstruct it. So there are roads that you will not do, and you'll take the half-width paving and apply it to roads that allow you to overlay the entire roadway.
And when are they? They looking for their newest phase to begin?
We didn't hear a thing you said, you were frozen.
So I apologize. It's very frustrating here on my end as well. When do they anticipate this project to begin?
My understanding is in the fall. I think they're waiting for your approval, and then they're going to move forward and schedule the work after that.
Okay, and just for the residents of that area, that we get timely notification before the roads start to be torn up. And if we can post online on our website when those roads are going to be, which roads are going to be tackled this time. There's not many left in Morgan, I think, that need this. Are we looking at something closer to the water? Is this going to be behind like Fernandez in that area?
Mayor, this is where the old Club Benet used to be, on the roads in that section on the east and west side of 35. So you got Morgan Avenue, First Street, Ferry Place. Then on the other side, you have Morgan Avenue, Willow, Dodd, Robinson, Tyler. So that area of Morgan where the old Club Benet used to be on east and west side of 35. That's where this is going to take place.
That's what I anticipated. Those roads are narrow and it's also difficult for parking and so forth. I just want our residents to have enough time in order to be notified. We did have some issues in the past where it was like all of a sudden in 1 hour, it was, oh, signs were posted and then things were closed. I don't want to have that duplication of situation happen.
And Mayor, just so you're aware, in our meetings with them, they've indicated that they've massively expanded their notification to residents in terms of door hangers, robocalls, and website postings. And they've been made aware of the condition of the Old Spy Road cobblestones that will have to be addressed and maintained and restored if they're disturbed in any fashion.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. I always, well, my fun with PSE&G started a long time ago. So
Guys, you're working with the roads department as well.
Actually, we're working with the water department. You're familiar with the lead service issue. So we actually have a contractor that's digging test holes now to try to identify whether you have lead services. We don't want public service to come in, pave roadways and find out you have to dig up lead services. So we're going to do that in advance of their work. And that's also going to help us dictate which roads are restored by PSE&G. The borough may have to replace water mains and water services. So that'll get done before the roads are final paved.
And so could you at least consult with George or Tony in Public Works Roads Division about paving and whatnot, just so that we're on the same page with?
Actually, some of the roads that they've recommended be done are in this area as well. So we may be able to get public
Yeah, I
service.
just want to make sure we're all in the know on that.
They're involved with the process as well, yes.
Okay.
yeah, one of the things in that
You cut out again.
area, I mean, if you've driven through there, and it doesn't exist in a lot of those roads. I'm so sorry. I think I cut out again. Did I cut out again? Did I cut out again?
Yes.
I apologize. Please be aware that the roads over in that area, they don't have curbing. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in some of those streets. So I really want to make sure that those residents are getting the services that they need. So I think it's important, as Councilman Conti said, communicating with our road department in reference to that. That's all I have on that piece.
Okay, authorization to promote James Ravel to Assistant Supervisor in the Water and Sewer Department retroactive to May 16th, 2023. This and the next three are personnel moves, is putting people permanently in the titles they've been serving in acting capacities for months, if not over a year. Number three, authorization to promote Joseph Damian to Senior Pump Station Attendant in the Water and Sewer Department, retroactive to May 16th. Authorization to promote Katie Alichko to Assistant Tax Collector in the Tax Department, retroactive to May 16th. And authorization to promote Noah Heil, Zachary Ranovics, Andrew Gay, and Dean Contos to Senior Pump Station Operators in the Water Sewer Department, retroactive to May 16th. Authorization to appoint 4 police officers to the Police Department effective August 7th, 2023, pending the completion of all pre-employment requirements. And lastly, calling for authorization to call for a certification for the lieutenant and sergeant's promotional lists from the Department of Personnel. That's all I have.
Thank you very much for that, Glenn. Let's see, Denise, I see nothing for you today. All right, wonderful. Then let's move forward with Borough Engineer. Jay, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 3 items this evening. First is 2021 Road Project Phase 2, which is Glencourt and Oak Tree Road. Looking for a change order that's not going to change the overall project cost, but it allows us to compensate the contractor for additional work that was done at the request of the borough. We need a resolution for that. Second item, looking for a resolution to award a contract for the Active Adult Center parking lot improvements. We're receiving bids on August 1st, so if everything's in order, we'd like to award that contract at your next meeting. And then finally, the 2023 project that was approved this evening, you adopted the bond ordinance, looking for a resolution authorizing the design phase of that project to move forward so we can start preparing the plans and specs for those projects. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jay. Borough Attorney, Sean, anything?
Yeah, Mayor, just briefly, just wanted to let the governing body know that we have filed the lawsuit against 2069 Highway 35 LLC and Brian Berlew. As you'll recall, we were authorized to file this verified complaint. There's a return date of July 25th is when we go before the judge to discuss this. As you recall, there's a business being operated out of this location. It's some kind of gravel sand. They're authorized to have 2 bins. They have over 19 bins. They etched out their own roadway, which connects their site to Route 35, which is totally illegal. It's not a approved roadway. So that's why we're going to court to try to do the right thing here and get them to cease and desist. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much for that update. At this time, open to the public for any additional comments. I see one hand up. Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. I had some questions for Mr. Skarzinski, but
By all means, I could put off my personal needs to answer your question, Mr. Robinson.
I'll gladly wait. Okay, thank you, Mayor. Jim Robinson, 11 Burrell Square in Parlin. Mr. Skarzinski, a couple of months ago, I was here and I talked about streetlights. The other day, I had somebody drive me because I was counting from my house on Jackson Avenue to here, distance of less than 4 miles, and there were 21 streetlights that were out. That's 4 more than were out 2 months ago. So where are we on streetlights? What are we doing proactively and aggressively to get those fixed?
Short of getting authorization from the mayor and council not to pay a portion of the bill for the lights are out, I'm out of answers. We've contacted our area representative. They've been furnished with 2 complete lists compiled by our police departments. I can't think of any other way to leverage them than to stop paying the bill for the lights.
Okay, well, I'm not the business administrator.
In the past, we've had a PSE&G representative actually come to our council meetings. Can we get them here? Because I think it's high time that we get face-to-face contact and we can turn around and say, it's unsafe. I mean, this is constant. This is major roads. These are side roads. It's a major safety issue.
It's a safety issue. Yeah, it's not, I'm not complaining about lights because I like to complain about lights. It is a safety issue. And I will tell you, since I raised that issue, at least 5 people have either personally talked to me or texted me or emailed me telling me where there's a light out in their neighborhood. And some of these lights, some of these don't matter. Some do matter. Some are very important, like the ones on North Ernston Road. Those are important lights. That's a windy, curving road. And I think I said a few years ago that there was a light that was out and that got fixed because it got taken down by a car around that bend. So these are not things that, not being trivial. They ought to be done. And if the administrator wants to say that's the council's responsibility, that's fine. That's between him and the council. But Mayor, I think your suggestion is an excellent one. I have been to towns where they have called in the utility companies. And I will tell you this, it ain't pleasant if you're the area representative for the utility company.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. So Glenn, that's first and foremost. I don't know who our PSE&G representative is now, but unless the council doesn't feel it necessary, my recommendation would be to bring that representative in here for our next meeting. Any
We'll
objection
invite-
from?
I can, I'll reach out to her tomorrow and ask her to be in attendance at the August meeting.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is also important, and maybe we can reach out to our police on this, is taking a look at some of our most recent accidents and if there's outages in those areas.
Yeah, and
Okay.
maybe what we should do, Mayor, is put out a borough blast and say to folks, if there's a light out in your area and you can go safely find the number, because there's some pole numbers that you can't safely find unless you have a police car and you're able to put your lights on and stop and pull over. So maybe we tell the public, if you know of a light, don't even give us the pole number. Tell us where it is. And we'll pass that on and let them do that work. They're getting paid. And also, I would suggest this, that I think the chief said a couple months ago that once a year, the officers go out and come up with a list. Once a year? Come on. This ought to be done on a routine basis. I appreciate that a couple of years ago, Councilwoman Mayor took my suggestion and put it on the website that you can report a light that's out. I don't know how effective that is, but.
And we have a pretty good list right now, don't we? Glenn?
Well, how old is that list? Because as I said, there are four more on that 4-mile road that I noticed. So I think that has to be
If I may
updated.
recommend, Jim, if so many people come up to you with the light complaint, just let's talk the light complaint. Please direct them to that new website that does have the interaction so that they can report it as best they
Nothing I enjoy
can.
more than diverting complaints somewhere else.
Well, it's
So I
it's a
can- I
complaint
tell you,
for,
I-
it's a complaint for us. So if they could skip you and come directly to us, we might be able to address it.
I've told everybody about that site and I've even sent them a link to it. Now, since it's been probably a half an hour since we discussed pilots, so I think I will bring that up. I talked about the guide that I sent to the council on property tax abatements and pilots. And one of the things it talked about there was the need to have a comprehensive ordinance on pilots and abatements. Do we have an overlying comprehensive ordinance on pilots and abatements? We're working on it. Okay, well, that alone might be reason to not do any pilots until we have this comprehensive ordinance that the public can have input into. Last month, I talked about that I did some Oprahing and I saw an email from Willens, who was Trammell's attorney, and they talked about the need to have a pilot in place before they closed on the property or had approvals. So, and the question came up, is that a condition precedent if you're going to get a pilot? So does the attorney have an opinion on whether a pilot must be in place before a building is constructed? Okay, well, I think that's pretty important because we've spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and potentially our money on awarding a pilot. I think we ought to know if that ship has sailed or not. If we take the advice of the Willens office, which is a pretty good law firm, they said it has to be in place before they close, before they get their approvals. The building's up. So I think that I would, picking up on Mr. Skarzinski, maybe the council should authorize the attorney to do that. Now, on July 5th, I've submitted an Oprah request for the Phoenix Advisors report in regards to the pilot application for the Arsenal Trade Center. I think it was the 23rd or 24th of April. Might have gotten confused on the date that we asked them. And just today, I got a response from the clerk saying she didn't have a report. Now, did the borough get a report? Does the borough have that report from Phoenix?
No.
You don't have that report from Phoenix.
Correct.
Well, at the last meeting, Mr. Skarzinski said, in response to a question, that we were negotiating with Trammell. Now, how can you negotiate without that report that we're paying $12,000 or $12,500 for? And these are not rhetorical questions. I would like an answer to that question. And at the last meeting, the business administrator said, we talked about that sheet that he gave to a couple folks, that he had figures from the tax assessor that he was using to provide information with respect to the pilot, and was going to do an informational program for the public and the council. I talked to the tax assessor. In fact, I texted him from the meeting. I'm not so sure that his numbers are the same as your numbers. And since we don't have that report or Mr. Kupch's numbers, we don't have the Phoenix report or Mr. Kupch's numbers, I would suggest that maybe we put a hold on putting out information on this until we get those. And certainly, if we're paying $12,000 for the Phoenix report, that should be the basis of a pilot to be proceeding or negotiating with the pilot before we have that. Just doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I'm not the brightest guy, but in my way of reasoning, it doesn't make sense that we're going to be negotiating before we have the information that we need. And at the last meeting, when I read the emails I had obtained I talked about the park and other improvements we were going to get from Trammell Crow and asked the status of those. And the administrator said, we are still negotiating the pilot with Trammell Crow. Who is the we that is
Phoenix
negotiating
Advisors.
with Trammell? Pardon me?
Phoenix Advisors.
Phoenix is negotiating? Phoenix is negotiating. That's the we.
Yes.
Now, is that what they were authorized to do? Because I offered information. Pardon me?
I didn't say anything.
Okay. I offered information about authorizing anybody to negotiate a pilot with Trammell Crow. I got an email from Mike Baker to Dan Frankel saying that Sarah, we talked about this and you corrected the record on that Sarah had recommended the pilot. I saw the minutes of the 12/13/21 council meeting where Dan Frankel asked for and received permission to have discussions with our professionals for the Trammell Crow project per Sarah's recommendation. And then he went on to say that there was information in the council's packet, but I didn't get any of that information as part of my Oprah request. But there was no authorization asked for or granted to negotiate a pilot in that motion. Then I saw the April 10th minutes where the BA asked the council to authorize Phoenix Advisors to provide us information with respect to the Trammell Crow pilot application. That's what the minutes say, and that's what the agenda said, to provide us information with respect to the Trammell Crow pilot application. Now, that was the first meeting. That was April 10th. And then after members of the public stood up and asked some questions and objected, and maybe the answers weren't satisfactory. I think it was you, Councilman Zabrowski, who suggested that we put this on hold for a while. Then on April, let's see if that was the 10th, it would have been the 24th. It was approved, but there was no mention of negotiating an agreement. Now, is the council of the opinion that Phoenix was authorized to negotiate a pilot agreement with Trammell Crow? Is that what the council understands? Is that what the council thinks their vote was?
I can't hear you, Mayor.
Was to authorize the business administrator to work with Phoenix in supplying us with information on, and whether we should do it or not.
Well, that is a lot different than negotiating. And I would agree with your assessment, except that the business administrator wasn't mentioned there, only Phoenix. So when the business administrator said, I can't tell you about the park or the other things because we aren't done negotiating. I was a little confused that anybody was negotiating because that hadn't been authorized. And this is my concern. So you understand why I have an issue with this. When you negotiate with somebody, when you negotiate with Trammell Crow over the pilot, it certainly looks like you want to consider the pilot. I mean, if you have no interest in buying a car, you don't go into a car dealership and negotiate with the salesman if you don't want the car. If you have no interest in a pilot, you don't negotiate with Trammell Crow, one of the wealthiest land development companies in the US. Mr. Olszewski said they are a multi-million-dollar company. He was off by only a letter. They are a multi-billion-dollar company with a B, multi-billion-dollar company. And if somebody is negotiating, what guidelines, what parameters were given? If somebody is negotiating on your behalf and on our behalf, on behalf of all of the residents and the other taxpayers in Sayreville, the folks who pay their fair share of taxes, if somebody's negotiating on our behalf, what parameters were our negotiators given? I'd like to know that. And I'm going to wait for my answers, but I just want to say this in closing. The property closed. They got their approvals. The building is built. As I said before, because I like to say this, they are a $65 billion company. They should pay their taxes like everyone else. And they shouldn't get a pilot. Now, I asked a number of questions, and I'm old, so I'll sit down while they're answered. And maybe I'll stay here while they're answered.
Oh, Jim, just, you know that I had answered incorrectly with that. You asked me and I answered and I was incorrect. And I went back and I went through several years of Sarah minutes and I found out that I was incorrect and I admitted that here. You and I both know I got a pretty good memory. I don't know how that slipped by me, but it did. As far as Trammell Crow, we were in a really strange place. It's my understanding that before they go vertical, they must apply for the pilot. Nobody up here on the council ever saw an application. It never came before us at all. So I have reservations as to whether it's even legal. But while we're trying to find out if legally what they did was sufficient, we had to start planning just in case. Let Phoenix tell us what's out there. You know,
Well,
we still can say no.
I would say this, the question of whether or not that ship has sailed has come up before.
And I still haven't gotten a legal opinion
And
on that.
Before we negotiate, we've already spent $12,000 on that report, which we don't have yet. And the administrator's time is very valuable. God knows how much of his time was spent on that. Maybe before we even consider the numbers on the pilot, and just so you know, my objection to the pilot is, as Ken Olszewski said, they will pay less. The town as a whole will get less. The Board of Education, which is responsible for 55% of our taxes, will get nothing. And the rest will go to the town. And if they save, I think I did some figures, if they save $300,000 a year, and it's a 30-year pilot, that is a, Denise, help me here, a $10 million tax giveaway. Let's assume it's $300,000 the first year. Maybe it goes up a little bit. So if it's 300,000, let's say it doesn't go up. $300,000 times 30 years is a $9 million tax giveaway. You're shaking your head. My number's correct? Okay. A $9 million, that's good if you can get it. It's better if you're a $65 billion company and you can get it. But they don't need it. Our taxes have gone up. We shouldn't be paying more, so a company like that can pay less. And I don't think we should be negotiating with them until we know if they're even entitled to a pilot and until we get some numbers, until we get some preliminary information. And I think I agree with Councilwoman Novak who said she didn't think we authorized them to negotiate. I didn't think so either. Did anybody else here think that they were authorized when you voted, and it was pulled, when you voted the second time, that you were voting to authorize them to negotiate on your behalf without giving any parameters? Did anybody think that? And if the answer is no, I'd say we pull the plug on that right away.
What's taking so long to get this report to the council? Has anyone from the council seen the report from Phoenix that was requested, I don't know, months ago now?
When Dan was here, that was requested. Wasn't that requested when Dan was here? The report from Phoenix, wasn't that requested when Dan was still here? Oh,
this year.
okay.
April
Then,
24th.
but when this was originally given to Dan, who was our advisor?
NW Financial.
Did we get a report from them?
I don't think it made it there.
It never made it to there. Never left Frankel's desk. Apparently. All right.
I understand government is complicated. I understand sometimes things are confusing. You don't always understand.
Well, Mary,
everything,
I think-
get it all right, but when
Mary,
we're talking
Mary,
about a
you're the one that had
potential
asked.
$9 or $10 million tax giveaway, got to have better answers.
Usually when we have negotiations, doesn't the council get updated? I mean, that's the way it's been in the past. Has anyone gotten
Madam
enough?
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, of course.
we engaged with the financial professional because those are the people that are best equipped to explain to us, or more appropriately to the council, who will make the up or down decision on a pilot, what the best circumstances are for the borough based on the material that's presented by the applicant. We are not yet that far into the process where there's been any material provided to me that I could provide to the council. We've been tied up the last 2 months with the Insight pilot, of which a report was prepared. The ordinance was put on the agenda. It was not introduced. And now we can pivot and continue to assess what's going on with Trammell Crow. At the end of the day, whatever the product of that is will be brought to the council, who will make their up or down decision as to whether or not they feel the deal is appropriate for the taxpayer.
Was Phoenix involved with the Insight information?
Yes.
Okay. Well, now what you just described about gathering information and getting it and bringing it to the council is a lot different than negotiating.
No, it's not. Because there's ongoing dialogue with the applicant as to what numbers would work for them and what numbers would work for the borough.
Well, that's pretty interesting, because I would bet if you ask the folks in town what numbers would work for them with respect to the taxes that they pay, you might get an answer that you don't like. And if you're not going to make that offer to all the residents in town who've been paying their taxes dutifully year after year after year, I'm not so sure that that's the best offer to make to a warehouse facility run by a $65 billion company owned by the Crow family. And some people have said to me, Crow, Trammell Crow, that sounds so familiar. Where have I heard that? Well, they're confusing it with Armin Crow, who we've all read about because he likes to take officials on vacation. That's the brother, not one and the same. I don't know that Trammell Crow has taken any Supreme Court justices on vacation. That's his brother, so they shouldn't be confused. And I appreciate the opportunity to straighten that misconception out. Okay.
I just have one, I just want to say one thing. It seems to me, and Jim, you've asked a lot of questions, but we haven't, it seems like the council doesn't really have a lot of answers. And the two names that we keep hearing coming up are Phoenix Advisors, who are our advising firm, okay, and Trammell Crow. Well, I'm not asking to bring Trammell Crow in, but again, I think that it's time that we have some dialogue with our advisor. And I think this is another opportunity where we need to bring them in and find out where we are in, where they are in this process. They've got to have some kind of numbers because, and nobody on this council, it seems like a lot of people on the council may have questions about pilots in general. So why isn't Phoenix coming before us? As the mayor here, I'm saying they need to come here. But as a council, I think you should demand that they come here and they update us as far as negotiations. This would obviously, well, we shouldn't even be at negotiation phase. We should still be at gathering data and information. And shouldn't you be sharing that with the body that actually has that figures? They're using our tax assessor for numbers and so forth. We shouldn't be brought in on the tail end of this. We should be having a discussion now and getting some questions answered, because council, you guys have to answer to the public as well as myself. And right now, no questions that Jim has answered has been able, questioned have been able to be answered. That's not a good look.
Has the tax assessor weighed in on this at all? Has the tax assessor been asked to weigh in?
We should be bringing him in too. I haven't had any discussion with him. Anyone else on the council? Big multi-million-dollar decisions here, and we've got no answers. That is not good. And the public is watching.
At this point, I mean, I'm not being asked to make a decision on whether or not to have, when we're asked to make a decision on whether or not to allow this pilot, I would expect a presentation, you know, so that we have a basis for making a decision. And I would like to see the presentation at an open public meeting so that everybody else can see it. But right now, we are not being asked to make a decision on Trammell Crow.
Yeah. And
We were at the point of making a decision on Pure.
And I would repeat my earlier comment that I would hope two things. I would hope, number one, the attorney be asked to look into whether or not it is too late to grant or even consider a pilot.
I asked that, Jim.
And that until we get that answer, the administrator's time is very valuable. So I don't think he ought to spend his time spinning his wheels negotiating a pilot that might never happen, that some of us hope might never happen. I mean, there are a lot of other things that, streetlights, for instance, that have to be addressed.
My general take so far, right? I think you brought up very awesome points, in my opinion, and I think it's more of a call to action for many of us in the council. I think regarding the pilots, right, it's a call to action for, you know, especially those within admin and finance to really clarify some of the information. So I, you know, as one of the members, I believe that we'll be getting back to you on that and the rest of the public. Regarding the lights, right, as you know, it's a very serious issue. So I know that I believe it's a call to action, right, to those within public safety, which I'm also a part of as well. So again, on both sides, I just believe that, we'll take some more time to get the necessary information and see how we can get back to you and the rest of the public so we're all on the same page.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. And let me just say one thing. I said this at a meeting with some concerned citizens the other day. I was with some folks and I asked them what, Mary, I think you were at the meeting, what the biggest issues in town were. And the first or second, warehouses. No, I'm sorry, roads, warehouses, pilots, and overdevelopment. That's 4. But pilots, just think about this. That the average ordinary citizen who has so much stuff to do and so much information that they're bombarded with know about pilots. What does that tell you? That the average citizen is concerned about pilots with all the things going on in the world, with all the problems that families have. The average citizen knows about pilots. And I think most people think it's time for some of those pilots to be grounded. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public, or I can't see anybody else past the first row on the right, second row. All right. No. Oh, okay.
Eileen Pabon, 155 Norton Street again, in Morgan, the side of 35 that is beautiful. It's a historic part of Sayreville, and there are plenty of productive stores over there. It's not a blighted area. It's not the ghetto, okay? It's a very nice part of Sayreville. But think about what we're doing here. We are actually sitting here debating whether or not we got a report that's going to give us the ability to give a $65 billion company a tax break. Why? And they already built it. They already knocked down the trees. They're already there. And we're sitting here going, oh my God, are we going to give them a pilot? We're going to give them a pilot. No, we should not give them a pilot. They don't need a pilot. They already did everything. They're not destitute. $65 billion. So Mrs. Robert, Mrs. Novak, Aunt Sarah, you guys need to reel this in and start saying N-O, no go, because that's the answer. No study needed. Look at their annual report. Look at their tax. Look at their profitability. That's your report. And start acting like that is more important than giving away free stuff. The taxpayer deserves a break, not a $65 billion company. And that's all I got to say. And all just to let you know, I have formed a group called the Taxpayers for a Pilot-Free Borough. Obviously, when pilots are necessary, we're not going to be against them, but we are going to be against them, and we are going to be making a big deal about this. So I hope you do the right thing.
All right. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Anybody see anybody coming up? Am I missing anyone, or am I going to call
online?
Online. Thank you. Let me see if I can pull them in. Ruth Ann Mahoney, go ahead. Ruth, you're muted still. There you go. Did we lose Ruth? I think we lost Ruth. Jess, did you hear her?
I can't hear her.
All right, I'm going to go then to, I think it's Karen. It's Karin. If Ruth comes back, then I'll bring her in also. Karen, just name and address for the record, please.
9 South Minnesink, Karen Linder.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you, Mayor, about the signage going up South Minnesink, hopefully to be placed so the trucks will stop going up. I know you said they're going to continue to go down the hill towards the warehouses, but the signs that they have that are by the warehouses are not helping the trucks from cutting through when they're not working on the road as they are. And it's every day. And I was just wondering if new signs would be put up.
Great question. Thanks. I go up and down that road constantly. I did see the new ones that are right across from the entrance. Glenn, can we get a look into that as well? Because listen, signage is going to make the difference here. And it's also going to hopefully make the difference when it comes to us having to actually enforce that. So if there is any other place, I mean, one thing I would love to turn around and do is have Conrail over there actually paint that bridge and put clearance notification on the bridge as well, because it needs a repaint anyway. But can we take another look and see what we can do? Right now, our best opportunity is really to hit the signage as hard as we can and then start pushing the enforcement of that. Can you look into that first?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I would really truly appreciate it, because really it's considered against Commerce Act that trucks go through residential areas. And I know there's grandfather clauses in this and that. I'm not, it is what it is. It's a residential area that has these 104-foot trucks going up and down it day and night. And I know there work's being done on the road. I just don't want to, I don't know anything about road building or anything. But I'm just wondering, after all this is done, the road's going to get wrecked, and that's more taxpayer money, coming out of everybody's pockets because of trucks going through the neighborhood. I don't know.
Absolutely correct. I know not that long ago, I had called Glenn too, just to find out where we were with the
I can't hear.
Improvement projects over there, especially but you said that that's going to take a little bit longer, that torn up and fixed. Glenn, how far out are we from the full reconstruction of the
Mayor,
road?
we didn't get anything really from your last set of comments. You're gonna have to say it again.
Sorry, when was, how much further are we when it comes to the reconstruction of that road? How far away are we from that?
Of Minnesink?
Yes, of Minnesink.
Jay?
It's being done now. It's being done now, South Minnesink. It's being done now. Well, I think they're working with the heat right now, not working when it's real hot. They started last week.
Well, they were
working on the road.
They were doing some things, but Jay, when are we looking at for a full restoration or
Mayor,
full?
There's a lot of infrastructure work that needs to be done. The paint marks you see, the pink marks near this resident's house, they have to replace the water line. So that's the trench that they've got to excavate to replace the water line. It's going to be a new water line from Kramer out to Washington Road. That's going to be the first thing that's going to be done. It's going to start toward the end of the month. After that's completed, underneath the bridge, there's sanitary and storm lines that need to be replaced. After that's done, you've got curb and sidewalk replacement and then the paving. So you've got a few months worth of work that's going to be taking place in that area.
Thanks, Jay. I just wanted that clarified for a lot of the residents over there, because I do get a lot of calls on it. I do get the emails of, when is this going to be done? This is much bigger than just a quick paving thing, because there's so much infrastructure to be done. Yeah.
Well, it's truly appreciated, but like I said, if we could just get that signage, possibly it would help a lot with quality of life.
Where else were you thinking that additional signage would be more beneficial? What were you thinking?
Like towards the curve because they're not seeing or taking, they're not taking it into that it's them that have to not keep going. I think they think it's people that are going into the warehouses, because there's a sign that says all trucks turn left. And
Right.
then there's the no truck signs. I think maybe down further, and maybe a sign that has the ton, how it says no trucks over, 4 tons?
Yeah, they have that over in Laurel Park. I thought we had that over. So you're looking at Minnesink right there?
Yeah, because you said you were going to keep trucks from going up Minnesink. They could go down, but not up. So if it was somewhere there, and even one on Minnesink, you can put it in my yard. I don't care.
Well, I will say from Minnesink, because where I travel Deerfield every day because of where I live. And when I'm coming down Minnesink, just within the past month, I'm seeing tractor trailers coming down Minnesink. Mayor, that's over by you where the big hill is too. Like when you're coming from Glen and going down Minnesink to the light, there were 3 tractor trailers there. I don't know how the hell they even got over there and how they navigated that turn. So there's some impressive feats being had by some of by these truckers. So I agree. I mean, listen, a sign is a sign. It's very, very small amount of money to turn around and put up. So I agree. Any additional signage that we can get so that we make it very, very clear, no trucks
Yeah.
to residential.
Maybe down by the curve, maybe, I don't know where it would be good, coming up the hill, coming up Menacing.
So Glenn, another go around with some additional signage.
Got it.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Oh, but look
All
at the
right.
pole.
Anything else?
Look at the pole sometime when you're coming down Menacing, the pole on the right. It's a brand new pole. It's like ready to go get knocked down someday because it's so chewed up from the trucks hitting it on their way down.
I'll
So
take a
it's
look at it tomorrow morning.
All right. Well, have a nice night and thank you very much for
Thank-
everything. Hope to see some signs. Thank you.
Bye, Karen. Thank you. All right. So I see RRAM. So I'm thinking that's Ruth Ann again. Ruth Ann, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, Ruth Ann, you're in. Go ahead.
Ruth Ann Mahoney, 2 Gerard Place in Portland. Just have kind of one comment. There's the people here, the council, they're saying, we asked Tram, the warehouse company, what they needed. No, I'm sorry. You need to ask us what we need. Not a $65 billion company. They don't need much, if anything. The people of Sayreville need more than they do. And I think you all of you need to take that into consideration. Thank you.
Good point, Ruth Ann. All right. I don't see anyone else online. Is there anybody else in the public that I've missed?
No.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to close the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Motion to
oppo-
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, go in peace. Enjoy.